Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism.
I don't know which one of those causes my thin hair, but I have always struggled with thinning hair. It's been like a serious lifelong problem, especially when I was diagnosed with Crohn's. So I love Nutrafol. I swear by it. It's working wonders for me.
You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and using promo code DRINK, and new customers will get 20% off. That is their best offer available anywhere.
Plus free shipping on every order. Get 20% off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code DRINK. Howdy.
Hello. Wow. Remember last episode when we said we had no idea what the world was going to look like next time we recorded? Well, now we know.
We know as of 5 minutes ago.
Everything's coming up daisies right now.
My heart is racing really fast, and I was like, wait, shit, I have to get on Zoom and like talk to Em right now.
Also, when we say we now know the results, what we mean is last time we talked to you, we were like, we have no idea because Election Day is about to happen. And now we just found out, at least I just found out 5 minutes ago. So like this is happening in real time as everyone's finding out what the results were.
Yeah, Blaze told me like an hour ago about AP announcing it or calling it, and I was like, okay, but nobody's tweeting about it yet, so I don't want to like commit to my emotional state, you know? But then 5 minutes ago, like all the news came to my phone at once, and I was like, okay, we can all just like tweet about it now. I
was like getting ready to record, or I was driving over to the studio. And I was like, I'm not even going to check my phone this morning because the last 3 mornings I've just been so disappointed wondering when I'm going to find out. And the day I decided not to check was when I was like, oh, I'm just going to, like, what time am I at? And all these texts are coming in. So very exciting.
I have been, not sleeping. It's just been everyone else knows it too. It's been a rough week. And I feel like a lot of things just put on hold. I mean, that's probably just not for everybody, obviously, but I feel like for us,
I would agree.
Things just were kind of quiet on the work end, and I just feel like John King from CNN was just like playing through my dreams constantly.
It was just,
oh my goodness,
just sitting in wait to figure out what my fate was. So,
and I was just saying how like I'm truly the most impatient person I've ever met, and I was like, is this you're trying to like teach me something? Because I can't promise I'll learn it, but I get it. I get the hint. It's been a long week.
I'm very happy. I assume you were also very happy.
Actually, I'm pissed, Em.
Yeah.
Have we never discussed our political views? My favorite is when we literally just posted like, go vote. And everyone was like, your veiled political opinion. First of all, I was like, we just said go vote. Okay.
Yeah,
but second of all, I'm like, it's not veiled. We're pretty fucking clear.
Not even. We said register to vote. We said
register. It was register to vote.
Go register to vote. And everyone was like, know your place. You're to entertain us.
Okay.
Like,
yeah. So this one woman literally said, sit down. And this is your job to entertain me. And I went, woof. Okay. There's a lot of problems with that.
I was like, please don't listen to us anymore. Okay.
Anyway, it's not veiled. I feel like a little tiny gleam of hope has entered the room.
Yeah. We're on the side of like more human rights. So I hope that doesn't upset you. If it does, good for you. Kindly
you can
walk
go
away.
see my tweet, and it applies to you as well, which
exactly
just says bye bitch. Anyway, I also have a new update, that you already know, but that's a big news.
What is it?
There is a new furry member of the And That's Why We Drink family.
Finally, we can talk about it. Oh my gosh. Wait, do I get to meet them right now?
So he's kind of running around the house. Okay, we got another kitten, everybody. And he's very sweet. And it was a very quick decision. It wasn't like I've been, I don't make long decisions.
I was going to say, I thought you were about to say, I don't make quick decisions. And I was like, you're such a liar.
It's so bad. Like as I said, I'm very impatient. And so Blaze and I went on that like murder cabin trip, remember, for our anniversary. And while we were there,
this is a great way to start. Okay. Yeah.
That's how most of my decisions start. Right. And Blaze and I were there, and my mom and sister were watching Juniper. And I was just like, he seems like, my mom was like, yeah, he's kind of like moping around. And I was like, we should get him a little friend or somebody so that when we leave town with Geo or put Geo in daycare, like he has another cat friend. I mean, now Juniper's saying, I did not ask for this. So I don't know why you've done this.
It's his turn because Gio certainly said I did not ask for this when Juniper got there. So
that's exactly
we're
true.
just
Yeah.
it's a full circle now. But also I know I don't mean to cut you off, but I know you have been telling me literally since you got Juniper that Blaze was like kind of hinting that he wanted another cat. So
yeah, he wanted another dog, so I compromised and I was like, that's a lot right now. And not that cats aren't a lot, but yeah, you're right. Like he wanted, and so the second I decided it, and I was like, let's do it now. He was like, okay. He actually literally just texted me and said this. So he has a cold.
The cat or Blaze?
The cat. The cat.
Okay.
So he sniffles a lot, but he's bringing him up for in case you want to see him.
I do.
But yeah, so basically his name is Mooney, and the reason is that we wanted a Kentucky name. Okay, by the way, I live in Northern Kentucky. Also, surprise. People
Except not really. Not really.
Which is 5 minutes from Cincinnati. So
technically, you are walking distance from Cincinnati.
Yeah, from downtown. And so people got very confused as if I moved again, whatever. So we wanted a Kentucky name, so we decided to name him Moonshine, Mooney for short. Then we realized it rhymed with Junie. Then we were like, I guess it's stuck now. And then we found out that the cat's name was Sirius, like Sirius Black. And so it's another Harry Potter name. So
nice.
Anyway, he's very sweet. He has a cold. They found him behind a dumpster at a bar, which, as Em said, seems pretty fitting on both counts for me. And he had a little cold. He didn't have a mommy or any siblings, and he was just there by himself. And he was really sick and was like covered in fleas and like was missing his fur. So of course I read this and I was like, this is my cat. I need to save him.
So so it's Mooney and Junie.
Mooney and Junie. Yeah.
Was that on purpose?
He's no, it wasn't, because we said Moonshine, and then I was like, oh God, they rhyme. And he's all black. Okay, hold on. Here he is.
Also, hi, Blaze. He can't hear me, but.
Thank you. Okay.
Oh, he's so itty bitty.
Let me put on my headphones.
Oh.
Okay, here he is.
He's an anxious little one. Oh,
he's just very squirrely.
Sweet. Look at that little baby.
He's all black, so okay. He's really chaotic, and he likes to climb things, and he and Gio are currently kissing. Aww.
The exact invert of Junie. Just like it looks
truly.
like just like if you did a color like complete invert on the computer.
Once the kitty's bigger, they're gonna look like complete opposites. But anyway, so he has sniffles, so he's probably just gonna run around here. But anyway, sorry, that's my news of the day. I was nervous. I was gonna say we have a new member of the family, but then I remembered that when we did this, when I moved, and you were like, we have huge news, and then we didn't say it for like 15 minutes, and people had like
that was on me. I pulled a Michael Scott on everyone, but you know what? I don't regret it either, because we both know I'm theatric as fuck. So
yeah, we needed everyone to turn up the volume and not skip ahead.
Yeah, I needed it. I did it for the dramatic flair, and you know what?
It worked.
I stand by it. So
yeah.
Anyway, welcome. I am a little upset because Allison and I had narrowed our hypothetical dog names down to Moon Pie.
Oh, so, I forgot about that. So well, that still works. This is Moonshine and Moon Pie. That would be cute.
Okay, wait a minute. Okay, we didn't plan that, but maybe we should pretend like we did.
I'm sorry. I didn't mean to steal your name. I didn't even think about that.
It's no. We're gonna tell everyone who's listening to this right now. You didn't hear this conversation. Later, when we say we planned this on purpose, you're gonna smile and nod.
Yes, and it was Em's inspiration.
Let's say that. Sure, I'm not gonna.
Bye, Mooney.
That. Oh, and hi, Blaze also.
And also hi, Blaze. Anyway, sorry for that chaos. I only have one more thing. Do you have anything else to say?
No, I don't want to keep. Is the thing that you're going to say the thing that we're both announcing?
Oh, no. Do you want to say that one first?
Sure. So we have found our way back to Cameo.
We can't stay away.
For a long time. So people for a long time have been asking why we left Cameo or how come we're no longer, why we weren't offering videos. And it has been just a logistical issue on our end where because Christine and I are now in a long distance relationship. And
LDR, yep.
We wanted, to do Cameo together as one unit. And so we could only make Cameo videos whenever Christine was in town. But Cameo on our end, if let's say you request one from us, we only have 7 days to fulfill it. Yeah. And so sometimes Christine wasn't going to be here for a whole month. And so it was never it was weird. Like, do we turn it off except for the 1 week where Christine's in town?
Yeah.
And so it was just kind of confusing, but we've been talking to the Cameo people, and we are now going to have separate Cameo accounts just to make things more accessible to you, even though we won't be, quote, a package deal in your video. At least now you will have access to videos from us.
To one or both of us.
Yes.
Yeah. We did it that way because people were, saying like, hey, we want like a message for so-and-so's birthday or, whatever. And so now I guess our podcast page is going to link to both of our separate accounts, which I mean, obviously it looks like we broke up and we like created separate accounts, but we didn't, I promise.
Maybe we just do like veiled insults at each other on our Cameo of like her and
that could be fun.
Her and her cats, and then me and my theatrics.
Actually, that would be really fun. Yeah, so we apologize. I know like most people obviously would want it, and we would prefer it together, but it just wasn't feasible. But we are, brainstorming, so hopefully we can figure something out.
Yeah, we've thought of ways of like, what if we FaceTime, like, and then like upload it, but that didn't work out. Like
we tried that, yeah, but then I had to download Premiere and like resize the video. It was just
every video took like an hour to edit. Yeah. So it got really wild. So this is unfortunately the only way we can do it, but fortunate enough that we can do it at all. So
yes. Exactly. So that's that. And then the last thing I wanted to say, which actually this is sent in by a listener and it just like warmed my soul. And speaking of, a new kitty, this is an email from Justin who I might cry. I'm sorry. This just makes me very emotional.
Okay. Uh-oh.
Where's
there. Calm down.
There.
It's fine. Joe Biden's president. Joe Biden's president.
Oh, that's weird. President-elect, technically, but close.
Look,
I don't know where the page went. Oh, well, I'm just going to read this part. So Justin wrote in and said, and that's why I drink long-time listener, semi-recent Patreon donor, and first-time writing. I have a resource to share with you because I've appreciated how you've given listeners access to safety resources when you tell particularly relevant stories.
Oh.
Domestic violence comes up a lot with true crime, and I know you've seen before that animals are not excluded from this equation. I thought you might like to know that there are services for animal survivors of domestic violence as well.
Aww.
He says, I work for I think it's called Ahimsa House, which is a nonprofit based in Georgia that provides assistance for animal survivors of domestic violence. There's lots of programs across the country as well as internationally. A lot of time people don't realize that only around 12% of domestic violence shelters are able to help house pets, but over 60% of U.S. households have pets. So 50% of victims will delay seeking safety due to fear for the safety of their pet, which it's just something like you don't even think about necessarily, but then all of a sudden is like, holy shit, of course. Like you wouldn't
Or even like if the animal isn't, I mean, this is kind of a sidestep, but even if the animals aren't being mistreated, but if you're being mistreated, but they're going to keep the pet from you.
Oh, that's what
for the pet, right?
Yeah, that's what they're saying. Like if you're not sure where the pet, where your pet's going to go, or if you're not able to take your pet to the shelter, then obviously like you're going to not want to leave them behind. Right. Exactly. So that's true. Like not even necessarily if, the pet is being abused, but if you have to leave the pet behind to seek safety.
Right.
So I just thought that was really cool. And he said, everyone is affected when there's domestic violence, including the pets. As an animal lover, I thought you might appreciate knowing that survivors can find info about local pet-friendly domestic violence shelters and resources through safeplaceforpets.org. So, and there's Gia's bark.
With a little signature of approval there.
Yeah, exactly. So I thought that was really cool. And he says over 90% of the pets we assist are able to go back home with their families at the end of their time with us. So I just thank you, Justin. Thank you. Oh, shit. I wish I had looked up how to say it. Ahimsa or Ahimsa House, Ahimsa. And that was just really touching. And he also included a story that I meant to print, but it's kind of long, so I'll probably just leave it at that. But he printed a story of like a case, where a woman was had this situation happen, and they were able to foster the dog, and her abuser was trying to get custody of the dog, and since the dog was microchipped under his name, it was really difficult for her to say like, no, I want to take, this is my dog. So they worked really hard to like give her resources and legal aid, and like, she was able to get full custody of her dog back. And so it was just a really touching story. So, and it's something, don't really think about.
Also, I've certainly never thought about like, the legalities of like whose name is on the microchip for custody cases.
Yeah. Isn't that
such
wild?
a specific thing. But yeah. Wow.
Yeah. So
thank you, Justin.
I know. Thanks, Justin. That was really cool. And I'm just appreciative that you reached out and let me share that on the podcast. So
yeah.
Good resource to have.
Lots of announcements today, huh?
God, they're endless, truly.
Oh my goodness. Okay, well, shall we?
That's it. That's it on my end. I'm done just, throwing up words all over you.
I love your mug. Tell everyone about that.
I keep meaning to mention that too. I like how I just said I'm done talking. Here's my mug. There's paper on the bottom of it. This is my Mothman mug from M. It's little pastel Mothmen. People?
I don't know. All I know is I saw it. I'm sure I saw it on Redbubble. That's where I get most of your Mothman stuff. And I
think this is a Look Human purchase.
Oh,
I'm pretty sure.
You're right. It is Look Human.
Because the design I've seen on there, and every time I see it, I'm like, should I buy more of the Mothman design?
I think I saw that and I screamed. I was like, there's literally nothing I've ever seen that's more Christine in my entire life. And it's
so cute.
What's funny is I think we probably have mentioned this before on the show, but Christine, Eva, and I have all many times said we cannot buy any more mugs. This is just it's disgusting.
It's a rule.
When you add up all the mugs that we have combined, we have enough for the entire nation, I'm sure. And then every Christmas or birthday, I'm like, they need a fucking mug.
Actually, this particular birthday, you gave me 2 mugs at one time, and I was like, you not only broke the rule by accident, you broke the rule and then went, well,
it's
sorry.
No, it's okay. No worries. But no, I saw, you're correct. I saw one mug and then I was like, huh. And then I saw 2 mugs and I was like, well, I know the rule, but I'm going to quickly step right over it.
It was very Em and Christine move. You already crossed the line. So you were like, I might as well go as hard as I can.
I want to see how tiny I can make it on the other side. I just want to walk as far away as possible. What was the other mug?
I'm trying to remember. It's somewhere. I think it's, I'm trying to remember. It's one of the mugs. It's
not to put you on the spot.
No, I think it's another cryptid type mug. I think it was but also from Look Human.
Who cares? It was probably unnecessary, but also wildly essential.
Wildly essential. And look, I use it. So it's a Mothman mug. It's excellent. It's my favorite thing.
If you'd like to look like Christine when you drink your coffee, go to Look Human. They did not pay us to shout them out, but they are the first place I look for gifts for Christine. So
they have some great stuff.
This holiday season, more people will be mailing stuff than ever before, me included. I know when it comes to the holidays, I plan on probably shipping all of my Christmas presents versus just getting to hand them to people like in previous years. It also means that the post office is going to be extra busy, and I don't have time for that. You don't have time for that. But Stamps.com brings the post office and now UPS shipping right to your computer. You can mail and ship anything from the convenience of your home or your office.
I've been that person lately who is telling everybody about Stamps.com because I have been ordering a bunch of stuff for my house online and then deciding once it arrives that I no longer want it or it doesn't fit because I'm too impatient to actually measure anything.
Doing the same thing.
It's honestly, so some places don't give you an automated shipping label. Not going to call out names, but some places don't. So I've had to actually ship stuff myself, which is driving me crazy. And thank God I have Stamps.com. I brag about it all the time to everybody I know because Stamps.com basically brings the services of the U.S. Post Office and the UPS right to your computer. So whether you're a small office sending out invoices, an online seller fulfilling orders during this record-setting holiday season, as Em said, or even a giant warehouse that sends out thousands of packages a day, Stamps.com can handle it all with ease.
Simply use your computer to print official U.S. postage 24/7 for any letter, any package, any class of mail, anywhere you want to send it. And once your mail is ready, you just schedule a pickup or drop it off. It is that simple.
Don't spend a minute of your holiday season at the post office this year. Sign up for Stamps.com instead.
There's no risk, and with our promo code DRINK, you get a special offer that includes a 4-week trial plus free postage and a digital scale, no long-term commitments or contracts.
Just go to Stamps.com, click on the microphone at the top of the homepage, and type in DRINK.
That's Stamps.com, enter DRINK.
Stamps.com, never go to the post office again.
Christine, my armpits don't smell today.
They probably smell lovely.
Yes,
they just don't smell bad.
They smell like native deodorant.
Well, exactly. Yeah. I imagine they kind of always do.
They do. Yes.
As do mine. That's one of the few things Em and I have in common is our love for native deodorant on both of our armpits.
Native is the perfect addition to your daily routine. This holiday season, Native deodorants don't just block odor better, they are made better. They have ingredients that you've heard of like coconut oil and shea butter, and it's also vegan and never tested on animals.
So Native never uses ingredients that shouldn't be in deodorant like aluminum, parabens, sulfates, or talc, which like after I started using Native, I was like, I don't think I ever want to put those things in my body again, just in case. And their candy cane gift set makes a great gift option. I know last year, Blaze's mom put Native deodorant in all our stockings, which was really fun.
So sweet.
And they're great stocking stuffers for everyone on your list. Can confirm. Highly recommend.
Can confirm. Today my armpits smell like candy cane because that is their new holiday scent.
Lovely.
And I can't stop huffing my own armpits. I'm just
good.
I'm like, wow, what a winter wonderland in there. So give the gift of Native by going to nativedeo.com/drink or use promo code DRINK at checkout and get 20% off your first order.
Make sure you order before December 7th to get your products in time for Christmas. That's nativedeo.com/drink or use promo code DRINK.
Okay, so this is part 2 today of werewolves on my end. At the end of the last episode, I gave you a smattering, if you will, which is just a word I either love or hate, can't figure out.
Yeah.
A smattering of werewolf stories, specifically from the age of the werewolf trials,
right.
Just to kind of, tease you into this week. So let me now tell you what the werewolf trials were.
Fantastic.
So the werewolf trials, they occurred throughout Europe from the 15th to the 18th century. And it was, people were on trial. They were being accused of that word I don't know if I pronounced, lycanthropy.
Yes, so I just heard an episode of Lore where he talked about that a little bit.
Oh, perfect. Is it pronounced lycanthropy?
And he said lycanthropy, yes.
Excellent. Well, I'm going to trust Lore. So yeah, they were being accused of lycanthropy, which is turning into a werewolf. And at least in this sense, I think now in like more modern psychology, there's clinical lycanthropy, which is more of a delusion of turning into a werewolf, not actually shapeshifting into one. I think.
Depending on who you ask, I guess.
If you ask me, I'm going to say turning into a werewolf is very valid.
I agree.
So that's what they were being accused for. This started originally in Switzerland, but it then moved into mainly France and Germany and the Balkans. And so peasants at the time were still practicing a lot of paganism throughout Europe. And I guess they were regularly being accused of casting spells on other people. So if something wasn't going your way, you could blame the peasants for casting a spell on you because one of them practiced witchcraft in your town.
Yeah, I still do that to this day.
Right, exactly.
Peasants are at it again.
And there they are. Gosh, can't get them away from me. So the authorities throughout Europe were becoming more God-fearing throughout this period, and so they were interpreting any potential witchcraft as or any spell casting or any pagan acts as like satanic witchcraft, they were put to death. So it's very similar to the witch trials. Actually, there's one reference to werewolves in a book called Witchcraft, Lycanthropy, Drugs, and Disease, an anthropological study of the European witch hunt.
Oh my, did you read the whole book?
The whole thing. Can you? I did it in like 5 minutes too, which is the craziest part.
That's incredible.
Here's my favorite excerpt of the many pages I absolutely read. Here's a quote. A woman in Switzerland was beheaded in 1459 for turning herself into a wolf and causing an avalanche while in the company of the devil.
What?
That's a lot for one sentence.
That's a lot.
I think that was actually one of the very first occurrences of werewolves during these trials.
Wow.
So, let me just say it again. A woman in Switzerland was beheaded in 1459 for turning herself into a wolf, thus causing an avalanche. I don't understand the relation there. And obviously the devil was by her side the whole time. So,
obviously.
So that's just like one little quip of what people were dealing with back then.
Oh my God.
So the trials were fueled from like anything. So it could be politics. It could be like a complete like negligence to mental illness. It could be you just didn't like the person, or like the fear of the devil. So for any reason, you could like accuse someone of either being a witch or a werewolf.
Right.
It could have also been drugs. Apparently in 1545, the Pope's physicians, they tested this ointment, which you're going to hear about this ointment a lot. Apparently a lot of people said that they were becoming werewolves because of this ointment that they were given.
Oh no.
And so the Pope's physicians tested this ointment, and later on it was found out that it did create the sensation of flying or growing fur. So,
what? Do we know what was in it?
I don't know. I don't even know what it was called. Everyone just said this ointment.
Ew.
But so the Pope's physicians tested it in 1545, but they didn't actually come out and like say the results for almost 100 years.
Oh, so they were just like, we're holding on to this little secret.
I don't know if they were holding on. I don't know if they never knew, or like they put it on the back burner and then like tested it 100 years later when it like wasn't necessary. I don't really understand, but 100 years later, it was confirmed that this ointment was like causing delusions or hallucinations.
Maybe they just wanted to keep going with the idea that werewolves were real, and they didn't want to like. They were like, oh, it's this ointment.
They were like, no, this is too juicy. We can't tear this down.
I bet. I mean, it makes sense.
It makes sense to me. Obviously, if I were in charge of a country and people thought that they could turn into mythical creatures, that's the story I'm going to run with.
Yeah.
I was like, no. We don't need science to back that one up.
Especially if you have the power over it. Although I also wonder, what if the physicians tested it and then they were like, I'm a werewolf. And then they were like, well, shit, now we can't like say, hey, we became werewolves.
Oh my God. Actually, that's genius. Or what if they really believed it and they were like, well, we don't want people thinking the ointment caused this. Yeah.
Also that, yeah. A lot of options here. A lot of drama. I love it.
Someone write like a spec script on that of like physicians in the 1500s testing out their own ointment and becoming werewolves.
That's excellent. That's excellent content right there.
That's a little history, a little action, a little mystere.
A little sci-fi. Okay. Oh my God.
Oh my gosh. It could definitely be on the Siffy network. Ask my father. Okay, so the church's official stance in the 15th century about this was that werewolves were bad because they were pagan. So it wasn't necessarily that they didn't appreciate werewolves, it was because it was not Christian.
Got it.
That was basically it.
That makes sense.
So you can't be gay, can't be werewolf. You get it.
I mean, those are only the two things that I want.
The Bible's actually only one sentence, and Jesus said you can't be gay or werewolf. Except he also ran with the werewolves
in 5 seconds. That's true. But see, there's a lot of hypocrisy, and that's it. That's the hypocrisy.
Yep, you got it. So many of so that I was saying that they didn't like it because it was pagan, but by the end of these werewolf trials, it wasn't necessarily because it wasn't necessarily that they didn't like werewolves because it was pagan. They didn't like werewolves at this point because they were in league with Satan. And so it had really morphed into like, it's a completely anti-Christian. It was like, we don't like it because it doesn't work with our beliefs. And over 100 years or so, it was like, oh no, like this is the devil. So
they're like active enemies now.
Yeah. So the story had grown into something a little worse.
Sure.
Many of the werewolves who were sentenced were put to death also for witchcraft, just because they seem to go perfectly hand in hand. And in 1608, King Henry IV of France actually commissioned a French judge to wipe out, quote, witchcraft, werewolfery, and heresy all at the same time.
Oh, my. Okay.
So it wasn't just like this little thing that was, hidden news. People were like actually super scared of werewolves. And I mean, also they were scared of witches too. Right. So for the king to literally find a judge to be like, sentence all of them to death,
Jeez.
It's pretty intense.
Yeah.
So the judge that he hired was named Pierre de Lancre. And he was a witch hunter, again, hired by the king. And apparently he was real fucking merciless. So no one was safe. He would torture people, men, women, children, priests, even if priests were accused of it. This guy was like, I'm not about it. I will find a way to extract the information from you. So he also like, a lot of confessions were done in duress.
Oh my God.
So very much like the witch trials where like people were saying they were a witch just to get out of torture, and then like it backfired and they ends up getting executed.
Because like it's just like a lose-lose situation.
Yeah. And so his quote work, if we want to call it that, resulted in the execution of 600 people.
What?
In just 3 years.
Oh my God. What were they? I mean, I swear to God, they're just like back then running around like.
They were just like, you're a werewolf, you're a werewolf, you're a witch, you're both.
You're both.
So
horrifying.
during his apparently, quote, torture sessions, he would ask his victims about their carnal encounters with demons.
Oh, gross.
And confessions, like I just said, often came after long bouts of questioning that were definitely involved with torture. And his methods were so brutal that he was actually removed from his position as a judge, and the remaining trials were dismissed because my guess is they were like, wow, we've probably executed a lot of people that this guy just decided was a werewolf. Yeah. And like, maybe we should just halt this altogether.
At a certain point, they were probably like, I know we're probably in danger for our lives if we fire him, but also like, it's not worth it. Like,
exactly.
He's got to go.
30 million people are impacted by weakened or thinning hair. If you're among them, know you're not alone and that there's a solution you can trust to deliver results.
Nutrafol offers 2 targeted formulas that are clinically shown to improve hair growth and thickness with less shedding through all stages of life. I will say personally, I have all sorts of reasons why my hair is thinning. I'm not sure the root cause of it. Get it? Root cause. But I will say Nutrafol, I swear by it, has helped me tremendously. I've been taking it for a long time now, and I think it's really helped. I've noticed that less and less over time have I complained about my thin hair. So I highly recommend Nutrafol if you have a similar issue.
You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and using promo code DRINK, and new customers will get 20% off. That's their best available offer anywhere, plus free shipping on every order.
Get 20% off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code DRINK. Some mornings, you might wake up feeling ready to kind of just pull the covers over your head and go back to sleep. For me, that's most mornings.
I was going to say almost every single day, but yeah, continue.
Exactly. Well, so thankfully, having the most comfortable sheets could be the reason why. And it's definitely part of the reason I like to stay in bed. If you don't love your sheets, there's a problem, and Brooklinen is going to fix that for you.
I promise you, one of the reasons that I never get out of bed is because I love my sheets so much. They are just like a little angel kiss on me every single day. So Brooklinen was started by Rich and Vicky, who also tried to find beautiful home essentials that didn't cost an arm and a leg. And when they couldn't, they founded Brooklinen as the first direct-to-customer bedding company.
They work directly with manufacturers to make luxury available directly to you without the luxury level markups. Brooklinen has a variety of sheets, colors, patterns, and materials. It took me probably, 4 hours to decide on the color I wanted and pattern. And Brooklinen is so confident you'll love their products that they even offer a 365-day money-back guarantee in case you decide you aren't into it. But I don't think you're going to have that problem.
I wondered because it's not necessarily a quiz. I mean, you're literally just shopping, but it feels like a quiz because you get all of these beautiful styles in front of you on the website. And you're like, how on earth am I going to pair this perfectly with the other things?
So nice. I know. It's really beautiful. And then once they get to your house, you'll finally be like, oh, I actually do love my sheets, which sounds like a weird thing to say, but like it's not. You'll understand. It's not.
Exactly. I have a very nice navy set from them. I also have window pane. I love the window pane one. It's so swanky. Whenever we have guests over, I'm like, oh, look at my white sheets.
It's like luxury bedding.
Crazy. Okay. Well, Brooklinen's Black Friday sale goes through November 30th, so you can get huge savings, 20% off, and free shipping during Brooklinen's biggest sale of the year.
Go to brooklinen.com right now and use promo code DRINK for 20% off and free shipping. That's BROOKLINEN.com and enter promo code DRINK for 20% off your order plus free shipping.
Brooklinen.com and use promo code DRINK at checkout. And if you're hearing this after November 30th, don't worry, you can still get 10% off your first order plus free shipping at brooklinen.com. So actually, according to that judge, before he got his position taken away from him, any moral slight was worthy of being clocked as witchcraft or werewolfery, which I didn't learn was a word until this. But so I think they realized like, oh, he's really just accusing and killing everybody. Yeah. Because these were things that warranted you to be under investigation.
Right.
Quote, to dance indecently, to eat excessively, my ass be D-E-A-D.
Yeah, we're screwed.
To make love diabolically. Okay.
Oh, dear.
Yikes.
Now, see, this is all very subjective. I'm like,
Also, how is he? Is he a fly on the wall? How does he know how you're doing it?
He was doing that torture asking about demon sex, so I guess maybe he was just like pervy and was like, I need more details.
Not shocked at all if that was the case.
No.
To commit atrocious acts of sodomy. Okay, so he was homophobic.
Wow, okay, that just jumped a lot of levels. Yeah.
Yeah. Blasphemous. To be blasphemous or scandalous. To avenge themselves insidiously. To run after all horrible, dirty, and crudely unnatural desires. Definitely homophobic. Yeah. To keep toads, vipers, lizards, and all sorts of poison as precious things. So if you're a biology major, sorry.
Or if you just have a pet Komodo dragon.
If you have a little Komodo dragon.
Oh, no.
Or if you love passionately a goat and caress him lovingly.
Oh, dear.
So if you're a farmer, you're also in trouble. So,
or yeah, if you're a little too lovey with that goat, I don't think.
Oh, if you're too lovey, yes. But if you, I would be nervous if I just had a goat at this time in my life.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
I'd be like, I don't know him. I don't know him.
I don't know that iguana, and I don't know that goat. Sorry to tell you.
I've never seen that lizard in my life. I hate to say it. I don't
he
want
says he knows me.
I don't mean to sound ridiculous. I don't know this lizard at all. He could walk down the street. Okay. So anyway, that's the history, and now the rest of these are just little stories from that time. So
okay.
So I'm doing them in chronological order just to give myself some routine in this. So this one's called the Gandillan or Gandian werewolves. It was a girl and her 15-year-old brother. They were both attacked by a wolf. The brother's name was Benoit. Benoit saw a wolf attacking his sister, so he ran over and tried to stab it to death. The crowd chased the wolf away, and the girl died at the scene, and Benoit died from injuries later on.
Oh, no.
Before he died, he said that he had attacked the wolf on its paws, but it looked like hands, like a man's hands, and they were covered with hair.
Oh, jeez.
So the town immediately believed that it was this one person named Perrine Gandillan. And apparently they were found to have a wound on their hand in the exact same place as the wolf. And that was suspicious enough where they were like, you have a wound on your hand, you must be a werewolf.
Man, Benoit's on his deathbed. Like, I just want to cause some final chaos before I go.
So
like, I really want to stir shit up.
I was going to say, my last pot stirring. And so rumors in town, apparently before this, people were looking for a reason to get this Perrine person in trouble because it was their whole family was already rumored to be witches.
Oh, come on.
And so they basically, the crowd gathered up the whole family. It was led by this one guy named Henry Boguet, who was another terrible witch hunter. And he, I guess, had a vendetta against the family and was like, I've been wanting to catch them for a long time as witches. I know that's a werewolf. Let's just go get them. So the way he backed this up and justified his reasoning, the witch hunter, was he said that one time he had seen them all on all fours, barking and howling and covered in mysterious scratches. And when he questioned the family about it, they confessed to witchcraft, which, like, I don't think they did.
Yeah. He's just like, I heard it with my own 2 ears.
Yeah, I just walked up to them one day and then they got on all fours and said they were witches. Like, yeah, I don't think so.
I don't think so.
And then the whole family.
Or what if they did and they were like, no one's going to believe you?
What if they were actually just a whole family of Bill Murrays? They were just like, no one will ever believe what I'm about to do.
I'm sad that I'm not part of that family.
I would not be surprised if Bill Murray has gotten on all fours and ran around somewhere in the world.
No, me neither.
If you guys haven't watched the documentary, No One Will Ever Believe You, please go watch it.
I've never seen it. Like, I know the story, but I've never seen it.
I think I watched it when we were on tour, and it was like an airplane documentary. And it was very weird. I was like, why on earth is this what's happening? But if you don't know about Bill Murray's lifestyle,
you must.
He chooses to approach random people and do ridiculous shit. And then he'll say, no one will ever believe you. And then he walks away. And everyone's got some weird Bill Murray story.
Except me.
Except me. But
everyone except me.
The main one in the documentary was that he like crashed like a frat party or something and like partied with them for like 5 days and like got wildly fucked up and then was like, no one will ever believe you. Anyway. So here's another story that is not about Bill Murray. So this one is in France in 1521. And this guy, his name was Pierre. So it was about Pierre and then another guy named Michael. And they were known as the werewolves of polygamy. Not polygamy, polygony with an N.
Oh, never mind.
Maybe it's a French town that I'm mispronouncing, but
I see. Okay.
Poligny. Sounds a lot like polygamy to me. So they were accused of lycanthropy. Basically, this one guy was attacked by a wolf, and the wolf ended up running away. So the guy tried to track down the wolf so he could kill him once and for all, and it ended up leading him to this guy Michael's house. And Michael, he knocked on the door to be like, hey, have you seen a wolf in your area? And Michael was found dripping blood. And so he was arrested and under torture confessed that he was a werewolf. Oh. He said that he wasn't the only werewolf, though. So if he's going to go down, all the other werewolves are going down with him. So he said, there's another werewolf that you would want to talk to. His name is Pierre. So that's the story of Pierre.
Oh, boy. Throw him under the bus.
So only like halfway into his trial, Pierre made a full-blown confession. He said he became a werewolf one night while he was struggling in a storm to herd his sheep. And 3 mysterious people dressed in black approached and said that if Pierre accepted the devil as his master, the sheep would be okay.
Oh, well, in that case.
These must have been sheep that were worth gold because
very special sheep.
Pierre was like, that sounds like an excellent deal. So he took himself out of, I think he was Catholic, and so he renounced Catholicism. He like said like the devil's my savior, and the sheep were fine. So that
the
was
sheep, much like Juniper, were like, we didn't ask for this, but thanks.
The sheep were just staring at him in the store and being like, this is what's going on.
Yeah.
So Pierre, only 2 years later, he was like, I'm tired of like not going to church. I'm tired of the devil being my master. And I guess the mysterious group found out because all of a sudden Michael approached Pierre. And I guess Michael was also part of this like devil worshiping group. And they sent Michael out to go talk to Pierre and try to coax him back into the life, if you will. And he basically, they were trying to, I don't know why like Pierre was so special, like why he needed to be the one that continued worshiping Satan. But Michael promised him money and said like, if you come out to the forest, like I'll show you like something that'll make you want to stay. And so Michael took him out to the woods. They did a ceremony and they gave Pierre this ointment.
Oh boy, here we go.
And they basically said, okay, get naked, rub this all over yourself, and now you're a werewolf.
He's like, trust me, just do it.
He was like, this is a good thing. You're going to see.
Worth it.
So they began like regularly going into the forest together, getting naked. Sounds a little gay to me. And then they would just rub ointment all over each other and become werewolves.
Sounds like a fun time. I mean, I'm assuming that there are hallucinogens in this ointment. So I'm thinking like they are partying it up at this point.
So remember, this was 1521. So for like another 20 years, the Pope wasn't even going to test this ointment. Right. So nobody knew that there was like a side effect where you were going to think you're growing hair and flying and shit. So
it's like the most specific and random, like,
can you imagine watching a PSA commercial where it's like side effects may include thinking you've grown a lot of hair, but not growing a lot of hair.
Yeah. And flying around. Just don't worry about it.
Well, so then they started having regular meetups where they would go into the woods and they would rub ointment on like each other and become werewolves. But part of their little hangouts is that they would also kill people. So
oh dear, okay, that's not good.
So
it was fun until then, to be clear. That part I'm like, I'm out.
Imagine Pierre where you're like, look, I'm not really sure about this, and then you like decide you're going to go to one meeting in the forest, then you realize you're a werewolf and you're like, holy shit, this is actually not, this is pretty cool. And then the next meeting, they're like, okay, but now we're going to kill people too. And Pierre's like, this is worth it for my sheep. I don't understand.
Pierre was probably like, I'm in too deep at this point. Like, I can't back out now.
Like,
what are you going to say? Don't worry. We were rubbing ointment on each other for several days. So don't worry about that part. But then we crossed the line.
Pierre was like, even I don't know what's going on anymore. So there's no way I can explain this to someone else.
Too late, man.
So they started running through forests. They would kill lost travelers and children.
Oh, no.
They confessed to killing 3 children at different times. Agricultural workers, a woman who was gathering vegetables, the man who tried to rescue her, and a goat.
Not the goat. Pierre,
this goat
you did this all for the sheep. You did this for the sheep, and now look what you've done. So sad. So fucking sad.
Apparently, they would tear out people's throats. They would drink their blood, and they have confessed to bestiality, which I'm confused. I don't know if that means they were doing things to like the goat and like actual animals or each other because they thought they were wolves.
Oh, I get it.
You know what I mean? Like,
saying.
Was the bestiality with other werewolves?
Well, it sounds like it was to these sheep or these goats because they were very somehow attached to these animals.
That's true. Let's hope it's not that way.
Unhealthy obsession with these animals.
My thought is like if you're already running off to go get naked together and rub lotion on each other, maybe bestiality is the wrong word.
We can only hope.
Maybe you just mean gay sex, which is fine.
Yeah, maybe. I mean. I hope that's what it was because I'd prefer that over,
I hope if the sheep were involved, they were just like awkwardly just watching the whole time.
Bystanders,
and that's it. Yeah. So 2 notes. When Pierre was on trial for all of this, because remember he was telling this whole backstory. Sure. He did make sure he wanted everyone to know he could not explain what would happen to his wolf hair when he shapeshifted back to human form. It would just vanish.
Oh.
That was like very important to him for everyone to know.
Sure. Got it.
Also, he said he had to become naked to become a werewolf, but Michael could do it with his clothes on.
What?
So apparently he wasn't a strong enough werewolf. He needed the extra step.
Someday.
So those are the werewolves of Polygony. The next one
pronounced like Poligny something.
Poligny? No, I don't know. I'm just being a stupid American.
Not quite, but
Poligny. Okay.
Like I think
that's
something
Italian.
More like
I think like
I'm pretty
I'm
sure
thinking bolognese. Okay. Moving on. Anyway. Look, if at this point any French person who heard me saying that has been mad for the last 15 minutes. So.
That's true. We're not going to get them back. It's too late.
It's too late. They already turned us off. So the next one is in France in 1573. The werewolf was called the Hermit of Dole. Their name was also Gilles Garnier.
Okay.
And Garnier turned into a werewolf and attacked a 10-year-old in a vineyard and dragged her away. Then he stripped her naked and ate her alive.
What?
From the thighs to the arms.
Okay, woof.
And then brought the rest of the flesh back to his wife, I guess for dinner? I don't know. Maybe it's like when I go to like the gas station and I know Allison's going to want me to buy a Reese's for her. So I just do it. He was like,
just like that.
My wife is going to be so jealous if I don't bring back some raw human. Yeah.
Oh, God.
So he apparently killed another girl, wounding her in 5 places, but was chased off by 3 men. A week later, he also attacked a boy and dragged him into the woods. But he got caught because in the middle of eating the boy alive, he turned back into a human. Who knows?
He suddenly realized what was happening. The drugs wore off.
Right.
Oh, God.
Who knows what part of that story is true? Hopefully none of it.
This sounds like bath salt story all over again. I mean,
it does. That's what I keep thinking, too. I've thought that a few times when I was doing this research.
Disturbing.
Garnier was tortured to extract a confession. He admitted that he was just really poor, and so he would forage in the woods. And one day he came across a shadow man who offered him an ointment. So it would turn him into a wolf, which allowed him to hunt more effectively. And he confessed to murdering 4 children while being a werewolf so that he and his wife could eat. And he was burned and alive at the stake.
I mean, if he actually did murder and eat 4 children, like, sure, that person probably needs some justice. But
yes,
it just makes you wonder, like, if they're being tortured, like, did they actually do this? Or is this like an accusation unfounded? I don't know.
The worst part about all this is I have no idea what parts of my story of the stories are true. So hopefully these are all just like random like folklore, but I imagine someone has been killed for witchcraft or
There's
something.
probably like court records for some of it. I mean, just like there were for the witch trials.
Right. I'm sure. Yeah.
I wonder also with these stories, my thought is I wonder like when they get so fantastical if they're just like being tortured and they're like, let me tell you the tale, and in like Rumpelstiltskin style. I don't really remember that story, but I feel like you just talk and talk.
Just kind of like just trying to come up with something to make it sound real. And so
like you entertain you at least to stop the torture.
A lot of artistic license. Yeah.
Yes.
Also, where like someone should be going into the woods and looking for this like weird shadowed figure who just has like a bottle of ointment and nothing else, who's offering it to people
Michael,
for free.
It's Michael and Pierre.
It must be. They're
just out there in the woods.
It's just shocking where everyone's like, oh, and the shadow figure who had nothing but a bottle of ointment to his name. It's like, let's go find that guy. Like,
yeah, who is this guy?
Who is offering all this like weird werewolf serum? Okay,
for free, by the way.
For free.
It doesn't sound like he's charging.
I have the next one I'm going to actually save to the last because that's like arguably the biggest werewolf trial story. So I've got a couple more real quick. So in 1598 in France, there was a guy named Jacques Roulette. Apparently he was convicted of lycanthropy. Peasants in the area found a nude, mutilated body of a 15-year-old boy.
Oh, fuck.
Super gross. His limbs were still pulsing. So it was a very fresh kill.
No.
And as peasants got closer, apparently 2 wolves ran off. And so they thought, okay, a wolf attacked this kid. Let's go chase after the wolves. The wolves disappeared, but out of the same bushes came this tall man. This was not the same man with ointment.
Not the shadow man.
Not the shadow man. This guy was Jacques Roulette. He was a tall man in torn up rags. His hands were bloody, and apparently there was like human skin under his fingernails. So they were like, okay, this guy fucking did it. So they brought him to the local magistrate, and Jacques said that he was a beggar. He was begging with his 2 brothers named Jean and Julien, which I love that all 3 of them are J's that the Duggars did not use. Every single one of them.
The Duggars, you said?
The Duggars, how like all 19 of their kids are named with the letter J.
I think those are a little too exotic, though.
Jacques, Jean, and Julien. Yeah.
Well, they're a little too exotic.
They weren't like, they're not Arkansas enough.
Yeah.
But so Jacques said that he worshipped the devil ever since he was a kid. His parents gave him a special ointment. So maybe he's the child of the shadow man.
Intriguing.
And this ointment made him turn into a wolf that was specifically hungry for humans. He said that the 2 wolves that people saw were his brother and his cousin, Jacques and Julien. And he confessed to killing and eating children with his family because they were poor beggars who were hungry. He was able to give precise dates and times for crimes that actually had happened, which is super gross. Shit. So like that one feels more real to me.
Yeah, that's not good.
He did receive the death penalty for werewolfism, cannibalism, and murder, but he appealed his conviction, saying that he gave his conviction under duress, or he gave his confession under duress, and he was sentenced instead to a mental hospital for insanity.
So this guy gets off.
The guy with arguably the most like more airtight story. Yeah.
More factual statements. Yeah, that's disturbing. Also, like under duress, I can't believe they had that back then. You can appeal under, say you were under duress, but like nobody else. They're not like, oh, but all these other people who were their fingernails were torn off. Like
this guy was just a vagabond and a lawyer. Is the difference? He knew the law.
He was a vagabond, a lawyer, and a wolf also.
And a wolf. So and also like almost a Duggar. So like he's got a lot on his resume.
God, he's really a cool guy.
In 1603, there was Jean Grenier in France also. And so children in the area had started to disappear from the fields. Apparently one baby was even taken from its cradle. And witnesses started coming forward, including a 13-year-old who said she was attacked by a wolf under a full moon. And another kid who said that they were watching cattle and they were taken by a wolf. And this guy, Jean Grenier, he was heard like bragging that he was behind the attacks.
Oh shit.
They also connected him to being a wolf because apparently he was hitting on this girl, and she said that he like she wasn't interested because he was so dirty. And the guy was
Oh.
like, I'm not dirty. I just wear wolf skin because I need it to become a werewolf. Like, that was his way of hitting on her of like, no,
He's
no,
like,
no.
oh, this?
You've got it all wrong. I'm not dirty. I'm just a wolf.
Oh my God.
And so they kind of connected him that way. And then he ended up elaborating that he was part of a pack of 9 werewolves that hunted 3 times a week. It's like they have like a calendar, like a Google invite, like 3 times a week.
They probably do.
They're like, let's gather. They're
like,
thing.
get on the Survey Monkey. What days are you free next week? We have some plans.
So he also said that he loved to prey on young children because their flesh was most tender.
Okay, woof. That's bad.
I like how she was like, I don't want to date you because you're dirty. Also, like, now I don't want to date you because you're a wolf, but now I definitely don't want to date you because you're a murderer.
Now she's like, am I supposed to be, is this hot now? Am I like into it? I don't think so.
It's like, I know I said I liked bad boys, but like, this is too much. This is
I
too
regret that.
So apparently he confessed to various murders, and in each case he was able to give exact details again, which is terrible. Ugh. The court showed clemency to him on account of his age and poor education, so they sent him to a church to live at.
Serious?
So he was allowed to go live in God's house. In 1610, people went to go visit him. So only a couple years after he was sent to live at the church, they said he looked completely different. He had sunken black eyes. He had long teeth, which I don't know how your teeth grow.
Ooh.
But they're like, we haven't seen him in 7 years. His teeth are so long these days.
I know. He never gets them cut.
I know.
I wonder if like, because maybe he was like not eating or starving and
like
his
your gums kind of
recede.
rose? Oh,
yeah. Especially
maybe.
if you have sunken eyes also. Like, I wonder if that's just a starvation thing.
That's actually really sad and probably true.
Yeah.
Also, his hands looked like talons. Okay, so that guy also is not cutting his claws, his nails.
His claws.
Who knows if he's a werewolf. But he also loved to run around on all fours, and he loved to talk about wolves, and he would only eat raw meat.
Okay.
So this guy also probably should have been sent to like get help, because it sounds like he had clinical lycanthropy where he legitimately thought he was a werewolf.
Interesting.
So there's that guy. And then in 1691, there was an 80-year-old man named Tease, and he was tried for being a werewolf because his neighbors had a conspiracy theory that he was. They were just like, that fucking guy.
No.
Police had brought him in on an unrelated matter, and he just started fucking talking about being a werewolf. So like it ended up, the neighbors were actually onto something.
Okay. All right. That's not much of a conspiracy theory, though, if he's already telling you that he's a wolf.
Yeah, I feel like you don't have to be hush-hush about that if he's already approaching you, and I'm assuming he would just start talking about wolves.
It sounds like that's all he wanted to talk about.
Yeah, it's if I were going up to my neighbors and I was like, man, let me tell you about werewolves. I love being a werewolf. Werewolves are so great. There's nothing I love more than being a werewolf. The neighbors have a right to call the police.
The neighbors are like, there's something off about this guy. I can't put my finger on it, but something's
Let's drop
weird.
some red string on corkboard, but I have a hunch we're going to get somewhere around werewolves.
Somewhere.
So the police brought him in on a random other situation, and he did the same thing. And so the cops were like, okay, so this guy has no shame.
No.
He did say that his nose had been broken by a witch while he was a werewolf.
Oh, dear.
Because he was preventing the crops from growing. So this sounds like he was one of those bandinetti werewolves. I think I'm saying the word. I don't know it. I think it was called bandinetti wolves. But if you heard the last episode, these were specific werewolves who felt like they were tasked since birth to astral project into a world where they fought witches to protect local crops, which
that's the funnest one.
The most fun and somehow the least sensical.
Yeah, exactly.
But so this sounds like he thought he was a bandinetti wolf.
Sure.
And so he said that witches were preventing the crops from growing, and because they were trying to draw the grains into hell. Which, like, what is Satan going to do with the grains when they get to hell?
I guess make some cookies. I don't know.
He's doing a sourdough starter like the rest of us, apparently.
Oh no!
So to prevent this, Tease and his werewolf pack descended into hell to fight the witches off and get the grain back.
Sure.
And then Tease told the cops that he had since then given up lycanthropy. He's like, yeah, that was back in my glory days. I'm not a werewolf anymore.
Oh, boy.
He gave it up. I don't
gave it up.
I don't know why. He did say that werewolves can only change into wolves 3 days out of the year, which are St. Lucia's Day, the Pentecost, and Midsummer Night. He said that so werewolves can only change those 3 days, and they have to use magical wolf pelts to be able to turn into a wolf. He also said that werewolves are agents of God, and it was their task to protect livestock, which is ironic because you're a wolf.
So now he's saying they're the good guys, right? So now he's saying like, no. He's we're like Christian wolves.
I'm protecting the grains and I'm protecting the livestock, even though I'm a wolf who will eat livestock and also
children also.
And also God wants me to do this.
Yeah, that's the big point here.
They then responded and they were like, okay, we get that you're like somehow like a good wolf, but also you're practicing magic, so we're going to flog you. And so
yeah, sorry.
He ends up getting flogged and exiled.
Oh, God.
Which like he was getting real cocky just talking about it and expecting no one to do anything during the werewolf trials. He's lucky he only got flogged, you know?
That's the thing. I'm shocked that it only went that far, especially when he was like giving up information. I mean,
if you're going to be that braggadocious, like at a time when you should be not mentioning it so proudly.
Yeah.
Like, be thankful you're not dead right now.
I'm amazed.
So in 1849, this is the last one before the big one. In 1849, there was one called the Galician werewolf, which was in modern day Poland. And this guy named Switek was, he had a crush on this girl and told her, if you go to the churchyard and recite an incantation, I will give you jewels, which is obviously how you flirt with people. That's
what?
That's how I got Allison. I was like, go to the churchyard and do a little rhyme and I'll bring you something.
That literally is something that you would do. But also, like, I guess it's better than just being dirty like the other guy.
Or like being like, no, you misunderstood. I only like killing children. Like
I just wear dead animals and kill children. It's hot. Don't worry about it.
Can you imagine in today's age if you tried to tell somebody that I'm sorry, like I'm just like trying to play it in my head.
Any of the above.
Yes, but can you imagine telling someone like, I think like you might need to like talk to somebody. Like I think you maybe are a little unstable, and they're like, no, I'm just in a pack of werewolves. Like
you don't understand.
Which like, and I want to be very clear before like the rest of this episode too. Of like, if like you're part of like a group where like if you're an indigenous person who identifies with spirit animals or things like that, that's very different than like claiming you are a werewolf and are happy to murder children and things like that. So yes, I hope no one's being offended if like you actually have a belief system that allows you to be amongst animals and all that. So
yeah.
But yeah, can you imagine where you're like, I think maybe you need some help, and they're like, no, I'm just a murderer. I don't understand.
You misunderstand.
I just like to eat children.
Why don't you go to the dollar store parking lot and I'll throw some jewels at you,
right,
or whatever. I don't really understand that part.
Sing in a churchyard, you'll get there. So the girl was like, I'm gonna bring people if I'm going to this churchyard by myself.
Always bring a friend.
And he was pissed, so he ran off. He like got busted, I guess. He was like,
sounds like he didn't have great intentions.
You know what? Bingo, Christine.
I know. I am just like so astute today. Look at me go.
But very quickly, many other people started going missing in the churchyard.
Oh, no.
And disappearances were blamed on Switek, given the story that people had heard about him trying to lure someone else to the churchyard.
Right.
So villagers also began assuming he must be a werewolf. I don't know where that connection began, but everyone apparently is a werewolf at this point, so I'm not surprised that was an option.
Yeah.
So they're like, he's probably also a werewolf. And so they began killing any wolf that they saw, thinking it might be Switek in disguise.
Well, that's kind of also sad in its own way.
Yeah. I mean, it's just, I guess it's just hunting.
It's like not their fault.
Yeah. So at the same time, an innkeeper happened to lose a bunch of their ducks. I guess they had ducks at this inn.
I want to stay at that Airbnb, please.
Have you been to the Peabody in Memphis?
I don't even know what that is. I've never been to Memphis.
It's this like old hotel in Memphis, and they have, I think it's every day at noon, they have a show where ducks come through the hotel and go swimming in the fountain.
Get out of here.
Oh, it's so cute.
I would love to be privy to this.
It's so cute. So I think it's in Memphis. It could be Nashville. I'm pretty sure it's Memphis.
I've always wanted to go to Memphis. Now I have to go to Memphis.
They make it this royal regal thing. They put out all these chairs in the lobby of the hotel. It's this very elaborate, beautiful hotel.
As it should be.
And so they put out all these chairs so everyone gets like a front row seat. It looks like a little wedding because they have like chairs everywhere. And then they have literally like a man in like an old ass regal hat and coat and a cane.
Stop it.
Walking, and he's followed by a procession of ducks all in a row, literally ducks in a row, one by one.
I can't even.
And they all walk slowly to this very like delightful royal music. And they follow him to the fountain, and then he like does an about face and turns to them, and then each of them one by one hop up onto the fountain.
Stop.
And then at like he like says something, like I guess they're like trained to know a certain command, and they like all hop into the water together. It's very cute.
Excuse me, I have goose cam. No, I have duck cam.
You have duck cam.
My God. Did you see this live?
Yes.
Oh, I'm so jealous.
It was
I'm so jealous.
My mom and I, when we road tripped out to California, we stopped in Memphis.
That's amazing. I mean, why did you even keep going? I would have been like, sorry, California. I'm here for good.
But my mom, that was like the one thing my mom really wanted to do across the entire nation. She was like, I want to see the Peabody Ducks. So
I mean, Linda, I get it. I'm with you. Can we go on a road trip? Because
just for the ducks.
Wow.
So anyway, so when I think the innkeeper lost his ducks, all I think is like, is this in Memphis? Like,
you know what? Memphis is only a state away from me now. So if Tennessee's right near me, so
there you go. Just drive on down, steal a duck. So anyway, he lost all of his ducks. He suspected it must be wolves, and I guess the rumors throughout the local area were that Saulteaux was the wolf everyone was looking for. So it kind of became this thing of like, Saulteaux must have taken my ducks.
Sure.
So he goes to Saulteaux's home, and he smelled roasted meat being cooked. And And he saw Saulteaux. I guess Saulteaux saw that someone was outside looking into his house, and so he like hid something under his apron.
Oh no.
And so the innkeeper who was there looking for his ducks and smelled roasted meat was like, what did he just hide under his like coat? Because he sees me coming.
And then it quacked. No.
And then a whole procession of ducks jumped out of his apron.
The violins began.
Imagine Saulteaux is just the guy with the cane and the hat.
I think maybe that's where the story is going. I like it.
It's not, because the innkeeper ran up to him, grabbed him, and lifted up his apron to be like, give me my duck back. And it was the head of a girl.
Oh!
Yikes.
Oh, fuck. What?
So they were like, okay, so you're literally killing people, and found him in human form. So this was like an actual murder. So he called like authorities. Then Saulteaux's house got searched. They found a bowl of fresh blood. They found her organs removed and cleaned. And they found her limbs roasting over the fire, which was the meat that he smelled.
Oh no.
Saulteaux later confessed to having killed and eaten at least 6 people. But it was probably a much higher number. He just confessed to 6. And he, apparently this all started because after a fire, apparently, again, he was really poor and very hungry, and there was a fire nearby, and a lot of people died in the fire, and he was so hungry, he just started eating their cooked bodies.
Oh, God. Okay.
And he liked the taste so much, he just continually wanted to eat humans.
Yeah, the first part I understand, like, okay, survival. But the second part is like, yeah, no. You took it too far.
Needed to continue, yeah. So the locals suspected him of lycanthropy, but either way, he was like already caught for murder. And so he was supposed to go to jail.
The guy is like, oh, it's a werewolf. They're like, it doesn't matter. Like, he's literally a murderer.
Truly, that like lycanthropy is still the first charge he gets.
That's not
it's
the
like,
point, right?
It's like, no. It doesn't matter at this point.
Oh, my God.
But so he ended up actually dying by suicide while in jail because he knew he was getting the death sentence. So
this is just wild. Okay.
And I want to reiterate, like, this is like a lot of people so far in these stories have confessed to eating other people because they were poor and hungry. And side note, all the peasants were still the ones who hadn't been completely converted yet, and a lot were still just practicing paganism. So it's like taking 2 different parts. Like there's a lot of the peasants were still practicing paganism. A lot of the peasants were hungry and poor, so they like resorted to cannibalism. So the paganism part and the cannibalism part really have nothing to do with each other, except that they both are like part of the peasantry community.
Okay.
And so a lot of people started thinking, oh, if you're a cannibal, you must be a witch. So I think that's where the werewolf thing kind of came into play. Of like,
I see.
If you're eating people, we don't even care that you're a murderer. You must just be a witch, and being a werewolf is what's causing this.
Well, and it also probably just seems so like inhuman. Like,
right.
You know, the gut instinct is to be like, this isn't a person like us. This is a creature from the devil.
Exactly. So there's one last one, and this is arguably the biggest werewolf story during the years of the werewolf trials. So this is in 1589. You might have heard of this for all I know. This is in Bedburg, Germany.
I don't think so.
Not because like you're German and it's in Germany. I don't. It sounds like one of your stories.
It's probable. So don't worry.
It sounds like one of your like German cautionary tales. So
Oh no.
Let me get a sip of water real quick. Sorry.
I don't know if you can see I got this little love seat, and I call it my fainting couch.
Oh, like I love that.
Expire when
do this. So, no. Oh yeah. Yep. There it is.
It's very dramatic, and I'm obsessed with it. So I'm going to scooch this table so that I can be more. So I'm preparing for this.
So you can feign appropriately. Yeah.
I would love to feign appropriately for your story.
I love that. Oh my gosh, it sounds delightful. Okay, so this is in 1589 in Bedburg, Germany, and this is the story of Peter Stube. Stube?
This does sound familiar, actually.
Okay, so apparently it's his name is Peter Stube or Peter Stube, but people have also called him Peter Stumpf, Peter of Bedburg, and the Werewolf of Bedburg.
What year was it?
1589.
Oh, okay. Maybe I don't know it then.
So apparently there were strange deaths of cows that were found in the pastures recently. Children and women were disappearing. So it was just kind of a lot of weird stuff was going on in the town. And one day, a bunch of limbs of several missing people were all found together in one field.
Oh, no. Mm-hmm. Not the disembodied feet. They're back.
The disembodied feet, the disembodied arms, disembodied ears, all of it.
You're right. There's a lot of disembodied things.
So the community thought that it must be wolves just because they looked so mangled and people were getting dragged out of fields next to dead cattle. They assumed. And so they determined it must be wolves and then very quickly jumped to it must be werewolves. Or at least it could be werewolves.
Right.
Since this was like right in the hot spot of the werewolf trials, if you're assuming a wolf, you might as well also assume a magical wolf, I guess.
Why not at that point?
So local hunters started looking. And after many days, they actually found a massive wolf-like creature and they chased it down with their dogs, everything. And they cornered it. Or the dogs cornered it, and by the time the actual hunters got up to where the dogs had cornered this wolf, they were now cornering a man. So in theory, he transformed back into his human form before the hunters got there.
Oh my!
And it was Peter Stube. And so after, so apparently Peter was a farmer in town. He was a widower, a father. He was a peasant in town. And he was arrested immediately for the deaths of 13 children, 2 pregnant women, and livestock.
Oh my God.
All under the guise of him being a werewolf.
Like, that's true. That's true.
They were just
he was like literally a wolf.
They were like, we just found you. Like our dogs cornered you while we're looking for wolves. You must be responsible.
Like, a head in his apron like the other guy.
Right.
He just happened to be taking a walk.
There was less evidence than a literal head.
Than the exact evidence that other guy had. Right.
But then get this. He straight up confessed. And shit. It could be under duress. It could have been, through torture or something like that. But the way that this story goes, he happily, openly said on his own, yeah, this was me.
Oh, no. No.
And so apparently the attacks were wildly brutal, especially on pregnant women. He had, ripped out the fetuses and ate them raw.
Oh, I hope that's not true. I hope this is not true.
He called them dainty morsels.
Okay, well, okay.
Just fucking ridiculous.
Oh, God.
Also, I also don't think this one's real. First of all, I just really fucking hope it's not.
I just hope it's not.
But apparently this story comes from some random pamphlet from the 1500s and it was never documented anywhere else. So it feels very cautionary tale-ish. Oh my God.
Can you imagine though, if you were the writer of this pamphlet and then however many hundreds of years later, we're sitting here just like casually chatting about this story, and the guy's like, holy shit.
Well, also, like, not like, no offense to pamphlet writers, but like
All offense to pamphlet writers.
but
Full offense.
I would think if my job were a pamphlet writer, I would think like, this isn't going to be around in 500 years. Or
why would you, right?
Like, this will be long gone. But your pamphlet is the only one to have made it, and you happen to have the most fucked up story of all of them. Like,
I mean, you knew what you were doing, right?
You were like, hoping that someone would think
to survive.
Yeah, you were hoping this would like live out its legacy.
You were like, that guy Peter who stole my wife, my girlfriend.
Right.
I need to put him for the rest of eternity in humankind. I need everyone to think that this guy.
It's like they're gonna know. I'm already manifesting it. So yeah, if that pamphlet was telling an accurate story, even though there was no sources or anything for
There's no like bibliography.
Right. No annotated sites. Or annotated citations. So yeah, so apparently he literally ate raw fetuses. He strangled children. He bludgeoned women and ripped their throats out with his bare hands. He disemboweled some of them and partially ate them. Apparently,
also, just like side note, I love that today pamphlets are like, ride the world's tallest roller coaster. Back then it was like, hey, this guy Peter like literally ate fetuses.
I would say there's still a commonality there because it's still like tourism. It's like, come to the town where Peter did this really terrible fucking thing.
It's very German to be like, do you want to know the most horrible thing that ever happened?
You know what's so funny is that I actually, speaking of roller coasters, I just found roller coaster TikTok, which I didn't know was a thing.
I didn't either.
Did you know that, like, I don't know why I'm shocked. Like, this makes so much sense. I'm just mad I, like, didn't know about it earlier so I could, like, become a part of it. There's, like, apparently, like, a roller coaster community. Like, just like how there's enthusiasts for anything, there's, like, literally groups in real life, not on TikTok. There's, like, an organization, like, huge enthusiast group specifically about roller coasters who know, like, the physics of each one, like, the fun facts of each one. And, like, they all get together at, like, meetups to go to different theme parks and, like, ride their favorite roller coasters that they've studied together. Isn't that
what?
So precious?
I had no idea. Well, I have a fun fact about roller coasters, which is that when Em and I first started the podcast and we were brainstorming, hey, we have a podcast or we want a podcast, what should we talk about? One of the things Em threw out was like, hey, what about, like, theme parks? And I was like, theme parks? Do you remember that?
No.
One of the because we were just throwing around ideas via text. It's probably somewhere. And you're like, what about like theme parks? Like they're haunted, like haunted theme parks?
Oh,
I was like,
I kind of vaguely remember. I wanted to do abandoned theme park, abandoned locations,
theme parks.
abandoned
That's
locations. Yeah.
And then I was like, I mean, I think that's cool, but it feels very narrow. Like it feels very like
you could only get like
run out.
You could only get like 10 episodes in.
And to be clear, we didn't think we'd have 200 someday, but we were like, well, we should probably find a more vast source of material. But I mean, yeah, look, full circle.
Haunted locations is what we
full
branched
rhombus.
into. A full rhombus. So, but yeah, so he did terrible things to
pamphlet,
people.
Right.
Yeah, pamphlet man. He did horrible things to livestock and people. Apparently, one kid actually got away at one point, but it did say that Peter tried to grab her and like snap her neck. But what saved her was she had this stiff high collar, and it kept his fingers from being able to like do some sort of snapping motion and like get hit. Like it was because of her like really starchy collar. So
do you think that was just like another German like Catholic way of being like, see, this is why little girls
modesty
should cover their
saves
whole bodies, right? If you don't want to be eaten by an old man.
Yep, exactly. And so
he can't control himself, but you can control your outfit.
You can definitely throw a couple starch collars on. So because he couldn't actually really grab her well, it gave her time to scream. So the cattle heard her. And because the cattle were worried about their own calves, they charged at Peter and he fled.
Good cows.
Good cows. I was going to try to make a pun. No, it's too late. Okay. So Peter also, this is a weird thing, and this, according to the pamphlet and like Google, I'm inclined to believe that this was consensual. But he allegedly also was sleeping with his sister and his daughter.
Cool. If the daughter was a minor, probably not consensual, but
no, I think the daughter was like an adult because both of them, both the sister and the daughter, were also assisting in these crimes apparently.
Okay, not great. None of it's great.
I mean, even if she's an adult, like I still like, I'm not really like a big fan of it.
No, it's not good. It's not good.
But
there's some troubling connotations there.
Mm-hmm. So apparently he was sleeping with his sister and his daughter. Apparently he had a child with his daughter, and then he murdered the baby by bringing it to the forest and eating its brains.
What the fuck?
Also, like, this needs to be a longer pamphlet because I want more information than this.
I'm like, a pamphlet? What the hell kind of pamphlet is this?
It was one of those pamphlets that folds out into like a whole theme park map is what it was.
Oh my God. It has to be.
So at this trial, Peter confessed to all of his crimes. And he said that he had been practicing dark magic since he was 12. He started when the devil gave him a magical belt that would help him turn into a wolf.
Great.
And apparently when he would turn into the wolf, this is his own description of himself. He had the likeness of a greedy, devouring wolf, strong and mighty, with eyes great and large, a mouth great and wide, with the most sharp and cruel teeth, and a huge body with mighty paws. Wow. And he said that this was why the hunters thought that he originally was a wolf when they were chasing him. He took the belt off before they could get to him, and he became a human again. But then, like, where was the belt? Was he just holding it the whole time when they like arrested him?
Good point. Satanic belt.
So he apparently made a deal with the devil, or this is why he became like a killer, because he originally made a deal with the devil specifically to, quote, work his malice on men, women, and children, whereby he might live without dread or danger of life. So, like, he made a deal with the devil so that he could be a murderer and get away with it, but then he didn't get away with it. Then he didn't. Is the devil real? Also, where's your belt?
Maybe the devil's just like, haha, I tricked you.
Truly, why would the devil make an honest agreement?
Yeah, exactly. Also, I'm sorry, I just can't stop thinking about this, but, like, was the wolf wearing a belt?
That's what I'm thinking, too. I'm like,
did he take it off? But how did he take it off?
Like, do you take your own fur off? Like, yeah. In that case, if you can see the belt, then you should know which wolves are wolves and which are werewolves.
Also, I'd be like, prove it. Put on your belt. I want to see this.
Right. Okay, wait a minute. How come there were literally 3 centuries of werewolf trials where many people claimed that they were putting on magical belts, and we've never seen one of these belts?
Yeah. Okay, give me a time machine. Em and I are going to go back.
Hang on a second.
We're the jury now. We have a lot of questions. Hello, it's us. It's me again.
So if you own a belt, I actually just want to go into everyone's closet like I'm Tan France, and I want to be like, I want to watch you put every single one of these on, because one of them might be magical.
Where's your magic satanic belt? I need it now.
Also, then JVN walks in. He's like, I want to see all your ointments.
Well, he's also like,
wait a minute, is this Queer Eye? Hang on.
He's like, that werewolf hair is really matted, girl. We got to brush it out. Okay, we're not cut out for that kind of a show, but we are the jury for, 15th century
We would just be the Anthony in that and just eat avocados in the kitchen and leave everyone else alone.
That's all I've ever wanted.
So, so he apparently made a deal with the devil so that he could kill people. He also confessed to having sex with a succubus.
Good.
That the devil sent him as a thank you or something.
That's like the least
like a fruit basket.
For all your trouble.
Here's your succubus.
That's like the least okay, you're confessing that you also had sex with your daughter and your wife, or I'm sorry, your sister, and killed babies, but like you're confessing to having sex with like a
You're like, here's demon. Arguably the worst of it all. It's like,
right.
I beg to differ.
Priorities are off.
So then on Halloween, apparently Peter's daughter and his sister, again, both who were convicted of assisting him in his crimes, they were both burned at the stake.
Oh, no.
And then Peter, specifically, because he did the real heinous shit, he was like old school medieval tortured, where he was like lashed on a wheel. His flesh was torn off of him with like pliers, like pinchers.
I think that's called flaying.
Okay, well, that happened to him.
Oh, God.
His limbs were broken, and then they chopped off his head. And then,
oh my God.
And then his body was burned at the stake, and then they put another, like, I guess, previously dead wolf's body. They put Peter's head on the body, and then, like, hoisted it up in the center of the town so that everyone could go see this, like, dead wolf with Peter's head on it as a warning.
It's now sounding more like a pamphlet. Like, I'm getting the picture now.
As a warning to other werewolves, like, this will happen if... Also gave a bad name to werewolves. Like, can't there just be one werewolf who's like, I want to go hang out in the forest, maybe get a belly rub. That's fucking it. That's it.
Well, that one guy was like, I was just trying to get the wheat away from
Yeah, that one guy's like, look, I'm saving your crops.
God
So you're
told me to do
welcome.
this.
You're
Yeah.
welcome. And he probably also got executed. Anyway, sorry that was so long, but those are some of the many stories and cases from the werewolf trials.
That's nuts. Dude, no, it was just long because I kept interrupting. I apologize. But holy cannoli, that was crazy. Wow. I don't even know what to say. That pamphlet, though, that was the longest pamphlet I've ever heard of.
That pamphlet was like a 20-minute long story on a podcast.
It sounds like our episode. Yeah. Okay. All right. Well, I have a story for you today that several people had requested in the past, and I didn't know what it was, and now I feel pretty ignorant. But this is the story of Neil Stonechild and the Starlight Tours murders.
Oh, that sounds familiar, but I've probably never heard of it.
Yeah, I knew that phrase just because people kept requesting it, but I never thought to really.
Oh,
sorry.
I think I've just heard Starchild before, and so I'm confusing it in my head.
Okay, it's Starlight Tours, but
okay. Well,
Starlight.
I really don't know what's going on.
Starchild, I think. Okay, no, I'm not going to say it because I feel like I think that was a book.
I'm a very ignorant person. Let's just keep going. Okay.
Okay. So I'm going to try to make us slightly less ignorant today. This week, we are going to Saskatoon, Saskatchewan in Canada. So let's start there.
Let's please. Wow.
Some notable people from Saskatoon include Joni Mitchell, former NHL player Gordie Howe, not somebody I know, but okay. And Jan Martel, who wrote Life of Pi.
Oh, okay.
Fun fact.
I do know Life of Pi.
That one I know, and Joni Mitchell I know.
I feel like everyone's maybe my mom was with the times, and it's actually a younger generation that I'm aware of. But my mom and every mom that I was aware of was fucking obsessed with that book all at the same time.
Yeah, it was a very Oprah's pick book. It
must have been or something where it was it's a
Oprah's book club or whatever.
My mom was like, it's a boy and a tiger on a boat for the entire book, and I went, that sounds awful.
Okay, to be fair, your mom also wanted to see the ducks, only the ducks, so it makes a lot of sense.
My mom really is a real sucker for any main character where it's only an animal.
I mean, same. She's not far off.
Anyway,
I think she has a good taste. Okay. So Life of Pi, right. Another fun fact about Saskatoon, according to the blog Hike Bike Travel, is that there are more Tim Hortons per capita than in any other city in Canada.
Fun.
So that's the big Tim Hortons town, I guess.
I dragged Eva into a Tim Hortons when we went to Vancouver.
Oh, did you?
Purely because I was in Canada.
Because you were there, right?
And because Eva was next to me, and I was like, "You really lost all opportunities for an opinion today, Eva. I'm dragging you here. I'm dragging you here. You should have stayed at the hotel if you didn't want this."
Yeah, she knew what she was getting into.
She was the ultra hype man, though. I think obviously you and her both know how much I love Canada.
Yes,
Eva,
we do.
Totally enabled every ounce of anything I wanted to do, and I was like, we have to go. And
oh my god, I was getting all these fucking pictures to the group chat of with different touristy items, and I was like, thanks guys.
I'm still grossed out at how much money I spend in Canada on souvenirs. It was all for me. I wasn't buying them for anyone else.
No, they weren't gifts, by the way.
Anyway, yeah. I'm sorry.
No, you're good. I think we needed to get that out there. We were all waiting for
anytime we can, I want to. Anyway, shout out to Eva for absolutely being a homie that day.
Yeah, shout out to Eva, period. End of story for everything. So there's a lot of Tim Hortons. Anyway, Saskatchewan is also home to a large portion of the First Nations community. So for reference, in 2016, the population of Saskatchewan was 1,070,560, and of those, 114,570 were of First Nations identities, and I don't expect any of you, including Em or me, to do the math in our heads. So I will tell you that is 10.7% of the population.
Wow.
Okay. Was identified as First Nations. So on November 24th, 1990, Neil Stonechild, a Saulteaux First Nations 17-year-old, was hanging out with his friend Jason Roy, playing cards and drinking heavily. They were at their friend Julie Binning's house party on the west side of Saskatoon. So Neil and Jason had a 40 of vodka, and they had drunk most of it between the two of them. And around 11:30 p.m., they parted ways. And the following morning, Neil was reported missing. A whole 5 days later, November 29th, 1990, a group of workers found Neil's body in the undeveloped industrial block on the outskirts of Saskatoon. So he was way out in the industrial outskirts, and they found his body. So Sergeant Keith Jarvis, who becomes like a main character in the story, he was part of the mortality unit assigned to investigate. And it turns out Neil's body had frozen it was negative 28 degrees Celsius, which, again, don't expect anyone to have this calculator in your head.
Thank you.
Negative 18.4 degrees Fahrenheit. So
still fucking cold. Got it.
Fucking cold. He was lying face down, wearing only jeans, a light Letterman jacket from his brother, and just one shoe. And he had frozen to death. Despite there being visible injuries to his body, Sergeant Jarvis concluded that this was just another case of a kid going out, getting drunk, and going for a walk where he froze to death.
Okay.
So Neil's funeral was held on December 3rd, 1990 at Westwood Funeral Chapel, where his friends saw the body and observed 2 parallel cuts on the bridge of Neil's nose.
Huh. Okay.
Stonechild's family immediately suspected foul play, and so they began to question why Sergeant Jarvis had quickly closed the case within like 4 days of finding the body.
Okay.
Because they were like, you listed the death as hypothermia, or cause of death as hypothermia, but like there are cuts on his face.
Right.
It just doesn't add up.
Like where are they coming from?
Yeah. So Sergeant Jarvis said, quote, "It is felt that unless something concrete by way of evidence to the contrary is obtained, the deceased died from exposure and froze to death. There is nothing to indicate why he was in the area other than the possibilities he was going to turn himself into the correctional center or was attempting to follow the tracks back to Sutherland Group Home or simply wandered around drunk until he passed out from the cold and alcohol and froze." So, to clarify, apparently Neil was, quote, at large from an open custody youth group home called the Picard Home for alcohol abuse. He was staying there, and he had been granted a temporary absence that month, but he didn't return on time to the group home. So he was, quote, at large in a technical sense.
Sure.
So according to Miss Patricia Picard, who ran the home, Neil had called her the day he went missing at 7:30, and she was like, "You need to come back." Like she was trying to urge him to come back to the home. And he told Miss Picard that he had promised his mother he would turn himself in at the end of the weekend. So he, I guess, wanted to stay at the house party.
Right.
The end of the weekend.
I'll be there. I'll be there Sunday. Don't worry.
I do like pretty hungover. I do like that he literally called her though. Like she did, like he called her to let her know I'll be back, but not yet.
He's like, I appreciate that you're trying to set a standard for me, but I'm not going to listen to you.
I got this 40 from my older brother. And
I'm not leaving until it's done, until it's handled.
So she explained this to police. And when Sergeant Jarvis heard this, he decided, okay, well, that's what he was doing. He was out in this random industrial area on the edge of town on his way to the Picard home, even though A, that was not where the home was, and B, he had just told this woman he wasn't coming back until the end of the weekend.
Right. So
then the woman was like, no. She categorically denied this, said like he would not then, not now, not ever have just wandered into the dark to come back to the group home, especially in like the wrong direction.
Right.
So then Neil's brother, Chris, went to the police after the investigation had already concluded, and he wanted to request Neil's belongings. So his little brother's belongings. The Saskatoon police told him they couldn't find them.
They just were
just like gone.
Either they didn't bring them back from the crime scene or they just lost them in their office.
Trashed them. Right.
And they're not going to look. Okay.
They're just not even a lost and found. And like, remember that he had given his brother this Letterman's jacket. So like it was literally a gift from him to his brother, or I don't know if it's a loan or a gift or whatever, but he didn't get his jacket back. His family didn't get any of his possessions back. So there are like a lot of flaws, not shockingly, in Jarvis's report. For example, it does not address why Neil was missing a shoe, which was part of the issue. It doesn't address how he could have walked 9 kilometers to an industrial area in a snowstorm.
Without one of his shoes.
Well, you're right. Exactly.
Did they ever find his other well, I guess we don't know because they don't know where his belongings are. But like, did this happen to be near a hill area? Like, could he have fallen and lost the shoe?
Potentially. I think we don't really ever find out exactly why the shoe, like specifically why the shoe or where it went missing.
Okay. Oh, well.
It's probably likely that it got just, lost somewhere or fell off or who knows. But I think even if the police did have it, they were not going to give it back. And it also didn't address how he had gotten those cuts on his nose. So, which, by the way, remember, his family and friends noticed at the funeral. It wasn't like they were told this information. It was like, what is that on his face?
Right, they saw it like the day he was going into the ground or whatever.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they like it hadn't even been addressed in the report. So the investigation was closed prior to receiving the coroner's report, prior to the toxicology report, and prior to completing interviews with witnesses. So like it just was closed right away. They didn't even wait for all the information. They didn't even wait for the coroner's report to come back. None of it.
Just wildly like irresponsible work here all around.
Yeah, exactly. So something obviously was not right, but the case was deemed an accident and it was just case closed, move on. So on March 4th, 1991, Star Phoenix journalist Terry Craig reported that Neil Stonechild's mother, Stella Bignell, and his sister disagreed with Jarvis's report and suspected foul play. But again, nothing was done. And now we basically fast forward to a decade later. So now it's around 2000. It's been 10 years. And this cold case is basically like a distant memory in the town at this point.
Okay.
Then 3 cases were picked up by reporters. On January 29th, 2000, the body of Rodney Nastis, a 25-year-old First Nations man, was discovered in a field near the Queen Elizabeth Power Station, which is like way out where nobody was known to walk around. It was just like way out of town. Less than a week later, on February 3rd, 2000, 30-year-old First Nations man Loris Wegner's frozen body was discovered in the same spot. So like by the power plant, again, where nobody was known to walk. So very odd. And then one other man was found who had survived a similar night to tell his tale. So 33-year-old.
Okay.
I know.
Also, was this another person in the First Nations?
Yes.
Okay, so they're all First Nations.
Yes.
Okay, so it's feeling a little racist so far.
Do you get a pattern?
Okay, I see. I mean, it felt a little racist just in the original story, and now I see.
And now it's becoming a pattern, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah. Okay.
It's just quickly reporters got these 3 cases and then went, hold on, like, something way bigger is happening here.
Something smells off. Yeah.
Yes. So 33-year-old First Nations man Daryl Knight reported that he had been dumped in a field near the Queen Elizabeth Power Station in the middle of a dangerously cold night by police officers.
Okay. Well, I'm okay. The end.
Horrifying.
That's all we needed to hear. So
yeah.
So let me take a whack at this. So is this probably what happened to all of them and why the cops literally just said like, oh, he froze to death and like refused to look into any information, refused to fill out autopsy reports, refused to do anything because they were the ones responsible?
Ding, ding, ding.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Quelle surprise.
Quelle surprise. And remember, like 10% of this population is First Nations. So it's like,
wow.
It's just shocking. Anyway, so Daryl Knight, he's 33. He says he was dumped in a field near the power station, which is where the other 2 bodies had been found, in the middle of the night by police officers. Thank God he was able to hail a taxi and was able to get out of the weather before he succumbed to the elements.
So does he, I'm sure you're going to get into this, but does he remember what happened beforehand and how he got dumped there or like?
Yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So it ends up being a pattern of like why this was happening to specific people.
And let me also take a shot in the dark that every single one of these cops was white.
Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah, I mean I didn't need to nailed it.
I didn't need to. I just wanted the confirmation here. Okay.
No, you nailed it. You nailed it. Yeah, it's quickly becoming a very obvious pattern.
I see.
So, as recalled by Dan Zakreski, a reporter who was covering these stories for the Star Phoenix at the time, he was interviewed on an episode of Criminal, which is a really great podcast that just does like amazing research and interviews. And it's hosted by Phoebe Judge. So Dan Zakreski is interviewed and he says to Phoebe, quote, "That particular month, it was the post-Christmas newsroom doldrums. I was assigned to look at one of these freezing deaths. There was a body found out by the city landfill, which is in the southwest section of the city. I was assigned to put together a best practices story of don't get drunk and try to walk home and develop a little bit of a feature on the individual who is frozen. So I began to do my research. Find out the individual's name turned out to be Lawrence Wegner, a social work student here in town. Then my city editor had gotten an improbable tip. City police had been dropping people outside of town, First Nations people. So he begins to investigate this further because he's going, I was just supposed to write a feature on this person who died and write kind of a little story to be like, hey, be careful when you're out drinking, you can die. And he's like, okay, now we're getting all these really weird reports that this is happening to multiple people and it's not an accident.
Right.
So he starts investigating and he interviews a First Nations man who responds with, oh, well, that's just a starlight tour. So
what?
I know. So according to Zakreski, he had heard versions of this in the past, but so this is what Zakreski explained of a starlight tour. Police would pick up a person who was intoxicated and they don't want to take them into the station because it involves a lot of paperwork. So they think instead of taking you in and charging you, we'll take you somewhere and you can walk it off. So what they would do is they would go about this starlight tour. The police would, by targeting a First Nations or Aboriginal man who was out drinking that night, coax them into the police car with the idea that like police were going to drop you off at a drunk tank to sober up or take you obviously indoors. However, what they would do is they would drive you to the outskirts of Saskatoon, kick you out of the car, and basically be like, find your own way home. And like, again, it's like -18 Fahrenheit, 28 Celsius, -28 Celsius. Like it's free. I mean, within minutes, especially if you're really intoxicated, like frostbite can kick in within minutes and you can die.
Is there a crime? Is there a name? How do I phrase this? Is there such a thing as intentional negligence? Because it sounds like
so, yeah.
It sounds like they're oxymorons, but it also sounds like that's exactly what's happening. Like,
yeah,
we're taking you further away to make sure that like you are more likely to be in trouble.
Yeah, because especially if you are in a position of like helping somebody, you know what I mean? I don't want to say any words about as far as like manslaughter, that kind of thing, because I don't know the specific legal terms. But yeah, it's definitely a crime to be like,
well, it sounds like negligence of like, oh, we're like gonna let you stay out here in the freezing cold when like we know we could help you. But it sounds even more intentional. It's like, let's bring you even further away than you already were from home, so it's even harder for you to get help.
Exactly. At that point, it's intentional. Whether you say like, "No, we didn't mean to," like,
It's like, then what were you doing out there? Yeah,
outskirts of town.
Yeah.
Well, and then the guy who survived, Daryl Knight, he basically said that he was like, "I'm going to freeze to death," and they were like, "That's not our problem." So,
in fact, we're making it your problem, whether or not it was yours to begin with.
Exactly. Like we created it. So, I mean, it's really horrific. Definitely a crime. So, critical race scholar Shireen Razak commented that there is a popular term for this practice is testimony to the fact that it happened more than once. The practice of dropping off is a lethal one when the temperature is -28 Celsius and if the long walk back to town is undertaken without proper clothing and shoes. So it's horrific. I mean, it's a lethal thing, right? If this guy's doesn't have a shoe on, doesn't have barely a coat, and you're dumping him on the side of town, like that's definitely intentional.
I wouldn't say you're killing him, but you're certainly making it easier.
Yeah. You're not, you're not you're not helping him. You're preventing his death.
You're not doing a good thing.
No.
Let's just leave it at that. Also, you know what? I realized where I know the phrase starlight tour is from.
Where?
Because I was thinking Starlight Tours. That's literally one of the names of like the big tour company out here.
That's exactly right. That's on the buses.
Like, the Hollywood
Starlight Tours is on the buses. You're right.
Where they drive you to all the celebrities' houses and stuff. Which, by the way, I'm not convinced those are actually the celebrities' houses. I think they just drive you through the neighborhoods and they're like, oh, that's a celebrity. That's a celebrity.
It's same. Like, oh, don't worry.
But that's how I know it.
No.
We
it's
drive past
Starline. It's Starline.
Starline. Okay, that's less offensive.
I just Googled it because I was like, there's no way they would fucking name it after
that's much less offensive.
A literal Starlight Tour.
Yeah, they just sound similar. But I was like, I feel like I know that. And yeah, we drive by those buses all the time.
Yeah, Starline Tours, Hollywood Celebrity Homes Tours. Yeah, and I think that's why, especially like living in LA for so long, when people kept saying, oh, the Starlight Tours murders, I was like, Starline Tours. Yeah. It sounds like a tour bus.
For a second, I was like, there's no way that's the same name, but okay, they're just similar.
It's really similar, and the fact that I think it says tour is misleading to us anyway. So I felt pretty dumb when I learned this because I went, oh shit, like, people have been suggesting this and I had no clue what it was. Right. So so of course, most white locals claim to not know about this practice. Obviously, we don't know how true that is because Starlight Tours were very well known among the First Nations community, who, again, made up more than 10% of the population.
Right.
So, I mean, obviously, they were the targets of it, and it was obviously known to police because they were facilitating it. So how likely it is that the locals who were white knew or didn't know is unclear. However, they denied knowing about it. Most of them did anyway.
Sure.
So not surprising. So once the story was broken, once the story broke, basically, the phone lines lit up from people in the First Nations community calling, not just in Saskatoon, but all throughout Saskatchewan.
Oh, wow.
And, yeah, they were saying, quote, "This happens all the time, but no one ever believed us. We were being taken out by representatives of the state. Who was going to believe us? White reporters weren't going to believe us."
Oh, my gosh.
So it's just like this fucking horrible practice that's been happening. And they're like, yeah, hello, like...
and I mean, like, wow, talk about privilege. I've literally never heard of this, and I'm sure this is something that they all know about or have at least heard through the grapevine. Hopefully this isn't still fucking happening.
Well, I mean, this was in 2000. It's not that long ago, so
great. Well, now I feel like an asshole. Okay,
I
well,
know. It's anyway. It's very sobering. It's just very sobering. So the reaction to the Daryl Knight case was immediate. So Saskatoon streets filled with protesters, including a march of 400 people alongside Lawrence Wegner's body. Lawrence Wegner's family, whose body had been found by the power plant. And they marched to police headquarters. Amnesty International and a host of other groups demanded action. And then Chief Lawrence Joseph, who was a vocal former Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations chief, and the then vice chief in charge of the justice portfolio, met with First Nations chiefs on February 19th of 2000, who were angry and hurt. They met chiefs from across the province. And Chief Joseph tried in vain to set up meetings with Saskatoon's police chief and provincial and federal officials. And in every speech, news conference, and public appearance, Chief Joseph demanded answers and said there was pain, but something was born out of that pain. He declared police cannot and should not be trusted by First Nations people and marginalized people. And when he finally met with a senior Justice Department official, he says the man alternately insisted on calling him Lawrence or asshole rather than Chief Joseph, which was his title.
Okay.
Like, I mean, Chief Joseph was like the First Nations like leader of the group. So basically the police are saying like,
oh shit,
we're just going to call you Lawrence instead of like Chief Joseph, which is like his title. I see.
Wow. Completely different than what was going on in my head. Sorry.
Yeah. So Chief Joseph was saying like, you can't trust police. Like, I'm meeting with chiefs from across the province. We're demanding answers. He couldn't get a meeting with Saskatoon police. He finally met with a senior Justice Department official, and the guy just continued to call him Lawrence, even though he's like, my name is Chief Joseph, and that's my title, and you're fucking disrespecting me. And
sorry, the thing I was laughing at is I thought in my head they were reversed, where the chief was calling the police assholes.
Oh, no. Which
is what's happening in my head here. Okay.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. No.
Wow.
Chief Joseph
that sounded like I was laughing at the completely wrong thing.
I knew you were. I just wanted to like clarify so people weren't.
Thank you. No. I thought it was the chiefs being like, let's just call the police assholes, and I was like, let's, sure.
No. I mean, I think that
at least in the story, but. Sorry, if it sounded offensive, let's all remember that was just my brain deciding to invert a complete situation.
Yeah, I mean, it's confusing. There's a lot that I just kind of dumped on you, but...
No. Just my brain being my brain.
So just to clarify for everybody, Chief Lawrence Joseph was a vocal former Federation of Saskatchewan Indian Nations chief and the then vice chief in charge of the justice portfolio. So he's the one who met with other First Nations chiefs who across the province.
Right. I think because I heard chief, and I know that's like sometimes a name that like you like say in a police chief. So my bad. Sorry about that. I
totally knew what was going on. I just wanted to be like, just
hey, I'm not laughing because I'm an asshole.
No.
Yeah.
So just to be clear, that happened. And so he obviously was not taken seriously.
Right.
And then Chief Joseph's home was also pelted with eggs and paintball pellets on 4 occasions. And on 2 other occasions, explosives were set off in his mailbox.
Really?
And he received multiple death threats. So it's just horrific.
I feel like I've never actually heard of that happening in real life. So it just sounds kind of like out of a movie.
What?
Like putting explosives.
Mailbox explosives?
Never.
I think that's a real thing.
I'm sure it's a real thing. It's shocking that is actually something someone would choose to do.
Yeah, I think that happened back in the 2000s. Was that in DC? I don't remember. There was like a whole mailbox bomb thing.
Oh, I remember the anthrax thing in mailboxes.
Oh, that also was a thing. Yeah.
Jesus.
Speaking of mail, death by mail, I guess. Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
So with the story obviously exploding, reporters began wondering how far back this practice went. And then they remembered the story of the teenager who was found on November 29th, 1990. So back full circle to Neil Stonechild, who had died a decade previously,
Right.
and his case had just been kind of dismissed. Excuse me. So on February 22nd, 2000, the Star Phoenix put Neil Stonechild on the front cover of their newspaper and wrote an article connecting Daryl Knight's, the survivor's, allegations with Neil Stonechild's death a decade earlier. So this survivor tale of Daryl Knight made it more clear that this had been happening. Like, he was like, no, I will tell you firsthand what happened. It wasn't, they had a survivor's account, basically.
Right.
So, more than a decade after Neil Stonechild's death, and because of the reported death of 2 other men and the survivor story, Neil's case was reopened finally. So, meanwhile, a fully white jury found constables Dan Hatchin and Ken Munson guilty of the unlawful confinement of Daryl Knight and sentenced them to 8 months in jail. And from what I heard, it was just 8 months in very low profile jail, like, nothing too severe of a punishment, I would say. And it was decided in February 2003 that in September there would be an official inquiry into the death of Neil Stonechild headed by Justice David Wright. So what seems like an incredibly incredible step forward in finally, getting justice for Neil,
right,
was pushed backwards when it was revealed that in 1998, Neil Stonechild's file, the file that contained information on his death, had been destroyed by police during a routine purge of old files.
Sure. Great.
But we have a hero of the story.
We do? Who is it? A werewolf?
His name's Ernie.
Oh, okay.
So Ernie was one of the constables on the Saskatoon police force. In 1990, he's a First Nations man. So there were 3 First Nations police officers at the time, including himself, out of about 350 officers. So again, this is just not great representation,
Right.
3 people
out
of 350.
Barely a fraction of the force. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. When 10% of the population is First Nations.
Right.
So he thinks, from what he can remember, that there were about 10 to 15 women on the force, 1 Asian Canadian and 1 African Canadian, and everyone else was white, except for obviously then him and 2 other of the First Nations officers. So speaking of Phoebe Judge on the Criminal podcast, he said that as a First Nations officer, the death of Neil Stonechild and how the case was closed so quickly had been on his mind. So much so that he had decided he wanted to make a copy of Neil Stonechild's case so that he could take it home and read into it. So he did this kind of sneakily, he didn't want to be like, look, I'm making photocopies of this case. It wasn't illegal, but it was definitely sneaky. He had some people make a copy for him of the case. And he even went at the time to Neil's mother, Stella, which, by the way, investigators had not gone to Neil's mother to talk to her about this. So he was the only one to interview her as part of the case. So he went to talk to her. He listened to her and her concerns about why she thought it was foul play. And he left saying, if this were a white kid or the son of the mayor, I'm sure this case wouldn't be closed.
Right.
He then went to speak to Sergeant Keith Jarvis to be basically like, hey, there's some misgivings here that I'm having about this case. It was closed really quickly. Neil's mother thinks there might have been foul play. I think we should look into this. And basically, at least in the interview and the podcast episode, he was like, nothing good. Nothing good came of that meeting.
Oof.
Basically, he was shunned. He was like, you have no idea what you're talking about. Stop meddling. And he said there was no thanks for bringing this information in, nothing. And then Jarvis threatened Ernie, saying things could, quote, happen to him if he continued with this.
Holy
and
shit.
he basically said, that was so vague. It could have meant anything from, he would have been sidelined to a desk position or, something worse. There was no way to know what the threat meant, except that he was basically being, silenced. So anyway, we're back to 2003, and we find out as this case is being reopened that police have mysteriously purged the files and they're missing. Right. And everyone's frustrated and is well, now what do we do? And Ernie is just happening to clean out boxes in his house, and he opens one that he hasn't opened in years, and on the top is literally Neil Stonechild's report. And he's like, oh my God, I had forgotten I made a copy of this 13 years or 12 years earlier. So he happened to find this report like while this case was going on.
That's amazing. Okay.
Yeah. So thank God, because he had said, like, I didn't even really remember. It didn't even occur to me that I had made my own copy at the time. So he found this report, thank God, handed it in to be used for the investigation. And for the inquiry itself, there were 43 days of testimony. 63 people testified, including Ernie. And because the police force hadn't had, obviously, like car cameras or body cams or GPS at the time, it was like really hard to prove any objective facts. It was, again, in the early 90s also. So the whole team had to interview and re-interview all of the witnesses. It was now 13 years later. So they had to like re-interview everybody to make sure this was like still fresh information. And obviously they hadn't really done much in the initial investigation. So now they had to do a lot more legwork. So one of the most surprising things, or just at least like shocking things to come out of this case was the statement by Jason Roy, who was the kid that Neil was hanging out with, who drinking the vodka with that night. Yeah. So he testified 13 years later, and he said he had his name is Jason Roy. He said he had phoned the Saskatoon police at 6:52 p.m. on November 30th, 1990, and had spoken to Sergeant Jarvis in the mortality section, and said he was originally reluctant to give a statement to the police because he was still subject to breach of probation and was concerned that he'd be arrested. And so he basically arranged with Sergeant Jarvis to provide a statement on condition that he not be arrested. So this is what Roy's statement said.
Okay.
He described how after leaving the house party around 11:30, Neil Stonechild convinced Roy to join him in going to see his friend Lucille, who was babysitting a few blocks away. They trudged drunkenly to the Snowberry Downs apartment complex, where they caused a disturbance by not knowing which suite Lucille was at, so they buzzed a lot of the different buzzers to try and find her. So somebody had called the police to be like, somebody's walking around buzzing all the apartments and disturbing the peace, basically, in the middle of the night. So that's how the police ended up there.
I see.
So the boys, I guess, argued, and Jason Roy left Neil and headed back. And he said he thinks he stopped to warm up at a 7-Eleven, from what he remembers.
Okay.
As he walked south on Confederation Drive, he says a police car emerged from an alley in front of him and stopped. Roy says Stonechild was in the back seat. His hands were cuffed. His hands were cuffed behind his back. There was blood on his face. And he was calling Roy by the name of Jay, presumably to like even under this horrible situation to keep Roy's identity safe. He was calling his friend by another name to be like Jay. So he called him Jay instead of Jason Roy. He said, Jay, help me. These guys are going to kill me. So, and he's in the back of a police car.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
So the driver, this is just really, the driver asked him if he knew the youth in the back, Roy says, and he says he denied knowing
Probably
Neil
keep
because
his identity safe, or
because he said he feared he'd be arrested too. Exactly. Yeah. So when asked his name, he gave the name and birth date of his cousin, Tracy Horse, who he knew had no criminal record. Right. So that when they ran the name, he wasn't listed, as breaking probation.
Genius. Yeah. Okay.
The poor Tracy is like, wait a second.
She's like, I live not even here. I don't even live here.
I'm in bed watching Netflix. So they checked the name, allowed him to go, and as the police drove away, Neil seemed afraid and yelled, "They're gonna kill me!" And that was the last time that Roy had seen his friend.
And then the friend just like went home, like just walked home, or
yeah, he was like really drunk. He said he saw this happen, then went home, and then the next day Neil was missing.
Imagine the guilt though. Like
it must be really scary, to be like, wait, like I remember seeing him.
Your last mememory is your friend is him saying they're gonna kill me, and then
denying that you know him. Yeah, exactly. It must be a scary thought. And it was like a survival thing,
Sure,
like he was like, I don't want to put myself in that position. So obviously this was like pivotal testimony. It revealed so much about like what actually happened that night. And when rereading his handwritten statement that had been recovered by Ernie, Roy said in 2003 that it was incomplete because it didn't include reference to Stonechild in the back of the police car. He said he had written an untruthful statement because he feared he couldn't tell the truth in a place where he did not feel safe, aka the police station. He says in his 2003 statement, "I lied for my life because I thought whoever had done this would be coming for me."
Sure.
So he was scared to even admit, like, oh, I saw the police do this because, again, no one's believing them.
Right. Yeah.
And he could be targeted next. So after a more thorough inquiry, the police investigation was brought back by Ernie. And okay, here's a quote. It was considered superficial and totally inadequate and found that Sergeant Jarvis closed the investigation prematurely. And Ernie said Jarvis was not prepared to pursue the investigation because he was either aware of police involvement or suspected police involvement. The deficiencies in the investigation go beyond incompetence or neglect. They were inexcusable. So this is Ernie testifying against the police force that he was on.
Right.
So the key findings included that the two officers, Larry Hartwig and Bradley Singer, were dispatched to a disturbance involving Neil Stonechild at 11:51 p.m. on November 25th, 1990. They took him into custody. He died of cold exposure in the early morning hours of November 25th. There were injuries on his body that were most likely caused by handcuffs. And that Sergeant Jarvis was aware of the suspicions, but closed the file less than 3 days after Neil's death without answering many questions. He dismissed important information about Stonechild's death that was provided to him by two other members of the force. Because remember, Ernie was like, hey, I have some information. And he was like,
Yep.
Get out of here.
Yep.
And then in the years that followed, senior officers also rejected or ignored reports from Stonechild's family, which pointed to the inadequate investigation, which just must be the most frustrating thing to be like the family and saying, like, can you please look into this? You're supposed to be protecting us and like
Jesus. Yeah.
solving these things. And instead you're causing them. So the justice also had 8 recommendations for the government and the police. He said the justice minister should undertake a thorough review of the Saskatchewan Coroners Act. The province should establish an introductory program through the police college for Aboriginal and other minority police candidates. There should be an advisory board to encourage First Nations people to get involved in policing. The Justice Minister should review procedures about police conduct, a pamphlet.
Maybe a few.
Outlining.
Maybe a few. Depending on how long they are.
One of those theme park stretch pamphlets.
Yep.
Outlining the procedures should be placed in each police station interview and waiting room. Police departments in larger cities should designate an Aboriginal officer to act as a liaison for First Nations people on their behalf. Each municipal police force should provide the Justice Minister with an annual report of complaints.
Right.
And police should receive in-depth training in race relations with refresher courses every 3 years. And a review should be undertaken of the courses that police candidates take in anger management and dispute resolution. So that was all given by Justice David Wright. However, Michelle Stewart, who writes for the Vancouver Sun, noted in an article in 2019 that although these were, based on race relations, they didn't address systemic racism, which obviously nowadays is a very big conversation that we're having in the United States as well. As far as like diversity training, quote unquote, is not enough.
Right.
So Neil's mother, Stella, said she felt vindicated because she never believed the police's version of events, saying they didn't want to deal with his death. All they told me was that it was an accident, that he went out there by himself, probably. But in the bottom of my heart, I knew he didn't.
Wow.
So in May of 2004, Saskatoon police admitted that the 1990 investigation was inadequate and that mistakes had been made. And the former police chief, whose name was Russell Sabo, apologized to Stella, Neil's mother, and held a conference where he said that it was quite conceivable there were other times that this happened. So he's basically admitting it was possible that this was a pattern that had happened before. He then went on to reference a 1976 case where officers had been disciplined for driving a Native woman to the outskirts of town and abandoning her there. So he's like, I guess it's conceivable that it happened, like in this one time when it like literally happened.
I didn't like the phrasing, it's conceivable. When, like, also, you alone just now have made it clear that this has happened more than once. It's happened many times. And also, like you said earlier, a lot of people, at least from the First Nations community, have all said like, yeah, like are you new here? Like, of course this is happening.
We've been saying this forever and no one believed us.
So if everyone was saying like, this is happening, and someone goes, it's conceivable. It's like, fuck
I guess.
off. Like,
no, you're right. It's like the bare minimum. It's like what you were saying earlier. Like, okay, we've got the bare minimum. Now what? Like, it's just, it's like, okay, thanks, I guess. But also what's next? So it's a little frustrating. On October 26th of 2004, Justice Wright released the final report of the Stonechild inquiry that found that Stonechild was in the custody of Sanger and Hartwig on the night that he died. So Sanger and Hartwig were suspended with pay, by the way.
Excellent.
And were then fired in November of 2004. So again, it's like a slap on the wrist type of thing.
Yeah.
Interestingly and demonstrative of Chief Russell's, so this same guy who was basically saying it's conceivable. So this police chief, he also reported how, a columnist for the Times reported how during like a morning briefing, Police Chief Sabo, who was asked by a member in front of about 20 officers if he honestly believes in his mind that those 2 officers were responsible for Stonechild's death. He said, quote, "My honest belief is that they did not do it."
Oh, okay.
A second veteran officer who remains anonymous backs him up, saying, "It's all political. These guys are just the sacrificial lambs."
Get out.
So basically, they're fucking saying, like, I don't really think they did it, but like, we needed to pin this on someone to make everybody happy. It's just fucking infuriating.
Okay. Well,
which is why that language, like conceivable, is like,
it's like, I mean, also angering. like conceivable. Also going back to just it's conceivable part. It's not even the bare minimum because you're not even admitting. You're still saying it could not have happened.
You're right.
You're leaving, still denying it. Like,
you're leaving chance for like, or we could be totally innocent. Like, exactly.
And then this part of like, it's all political. Like,
it's all politics.
Fuck
like, no,
off.
This is a child's death. I hate when people accuse us of being political. It's like, there's a certain point where this isn't fucking politics.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
Pisses me off. Okay. So despite this comment, things did start to change in Saskatoon, thankfully. The mayor was defeated in his run for re-election by a former officer who had broken ranks and spoke out at the inquiry. So that was great. So he had spoken up and testified, and he became mayor. Police chief Russell.
That's a mayor I want. Great.
Learn from this, kids. If you speak out against corruption, maybe you'll be mayor. I don't know. Listen, Jerry Springer was mayor of Cincinnati. If he could do it, you could do it.
I bet he was a great mayor too. He
actually was a pretty good mayor.
There you go.
I guess probably the bar is not too high nowadays for political figures, but go figure. So Police Chief Russell Sabo, who the conceivable guy, Mr. Conceivable, was fired. And for the first time, a First Nations woman was appointed to head the city police commission. So that was big.
Oh, okay.
GPS tracking systems are now standard in all cruisers and were instated after the report. So new Chief of Police Clive Weighill commented, "If somebody were to accuse us of taking them out of the city, I can go back 3, 4, 5 years. I can tell you where car 234 was at 2 a.m. on January 25th. I can tell you where that car went, how fast it was driving, and where it stopped." So it's just adding a layer of accountability.
Yeah.
So they have like an audio video system in front of the cruiser, and then they have an interior one that when the back door is open to put somebody inside, it automatically starts recording. So that's good.
Nice.
And they have no control, like police can't turn them off. And it also, it protects the public, but it also, the police, officers themselves are supportive of this because if there are false allegations made, it just clears up any sort of falsehood on either side. So if someone's saying, oh, they did this to me, like they can say, well, here's the video proof.
Right.
I didn't do that.
Right.
As if you're doing a good job, I guess, as an officer, then you like it. Then you're being held accountable, and that's fine by you. But so Weighill and others in the Saskatoon police have also been working to keep lines of communication open with Aboriginal leaders. Apparently, the number of Aboriginal police officers has nearly doubled since the inquiry. So in 2014, according to the Star Phoenix, there were 52 current Aboriginal city police officers, which was a huge increase from the 30 who were there 12 years earlier. So increasing numbers of representation. Again, not necessarily enough, pretty bare minimum stuff in a lot of ways. So this is pretty wild, speaking of. According to CBC, in 2016, a university student named Addison Herman, who grew up in Saskatoon, was working on a project about police brutality. And he uncovered that someone had been deleting the section on starlight tours from the Saskatoon Police Service's Wikipedia page.
Oh,
and he was like, someone's deleting this section. So he said, quote, I noticed there was no section on the starlight tour, so I looked in the article history and there was an IP address that took it off the page.
Is it the fucking police department? Shut up.
I looked at the info for the registration on the IP address, and that IP address is registered to Saskatoon Police Service, which means that a computer from their office went on Wikipedia and took it off.
You would think they'd at least try to be like slicker than that.
Exactly. It's like, speaking of accountability, like, really? You think no one's watching and you go do that?
That's gross. Okay, so remember earlier when I was saying intentional negligence? That's just intentional. That's just...
Yes, exactly. It's like, we're just going to like fucking erase this.
It's like, we just want to cover this up. We don't want you to see it.
And on the Wikipedia page, which I just went and checked, it was like...
Is it there now? Or
police? It literally says police aren't, or the Saskatoon Police Force has deleted this section before. So it's like now they made it worse by like deleting it, because now it's public knowledge that they tried to delete it. It
certainly is now with this podcast.
It is exactly, and it's still on their Wikipedia. So good luck. In June 2020, The Guardian reported how this is another just like, so that was obviously. It's coming from inside the house. It's coming from inside the police station.
Right.
Bad. Then in June 2020, The Guardian also reported that Canadian police had tackled and punched a prominent First Nations chief named Chief Alan Adam of Fort Chipewyan First Nation and had harassed his family in a parking lot in Alberta. So this was literally a few months ago during the heat of police brutality conversations lighting back up.
Sure.
And that was when The Guardian reported that Canadian police had like literally attacked and punched a First Nations chief. So again, this stuff is just to point out that it didn't go away. Like, it's not like smile in rainbows. Like, it's all better, obviously. So if you want to find out more, there are 2 books you can read. Ernie wrote a book called The Unexpected Cop. And there's a book by Suzanne Reber and Rob Renaud called Starlight Tours, The Last Lonely Night of Neil Stonechild. And then the criminal episode is also very, very well done. So that is the story of the Starlight Tours, not the Starline Tours in Hollywood.
Not to be confused. Please don't sue us, Hollywood.
Sorry.
Also, wow, I still feel really, really, really bad about my misunderstanding earlier of you not knowing which chief you were talking about. I feel like such an asshole.
But then I realized like later, I was talking about Chief Sabo, and like that was a white police chief, so it was confusing because the terminology is the same.
I thought we were calling a corrupt cop an asshole,
right?
Not,
we are now, yeah.
Not an indigenous chief. I do not want anyone to think I like.
No.
I feel so bad.
Don't feel bad. I knew what you meant.
I know it was as a normal, fine misunderstanding, and like I'm sure no one thinks I'm like actually like a complete jackass, but that's gonna be something I cringe about at 3 a.m. for like the next 8 years.
No, don't.
Anyway, I'm sorry, but
if we have to, you can go back to cringing about calling me classy trash, because I still love that.
Well, has there been? So was there a chief, a police chief at all who was also a chief in the First Nations? Because could they be like chief? I don't know. Not in the story. I don't know in general, but
it'd
be cool if you could call yourself a double chief. Like in college, there was a girl in all my classes who was a poli-sci major, and her last name was Justice, and she wanted to become Justice.
Wait, that's actually pretty fucking dope.
Isn't that great? So if there's a chief out there, let me know.
Hit us up. Yeah. And I know there's also some, talk of like trying to remove terms like chief, which have been obviously taken from, which are appropriation. Things like, I remember in an early episode, we used the word powwow at some point, and that still haunts me as well, because we got emails about that. Yep. So terms like that are now like, obviously, I'm really trying to be more aware of that. But I know that chief is another term that was appropriated as well. So, it's all just fucked up. So welcome to America and North America.
As of this morning, things will be, fingers crossed, changing. So I'm very excited.
It's a sliver of light. Let's
listen. In 2020, like, at least we've got this.
Yes,
at least we've got one thing.
We can take something. A win. We needed a win.
A win. Yep.
I got a kitten and we have a new president. So
Yeah. Oh, so sweet. Well, anyway,
anyway.
thank you guys so much. Sorry, I know this is a longer episode than usual, but I think we both were just like ready to go with our stories. They were both really good.
Em was like, it's Saturday morning, I'm tired. And I was like, let's talk for 8 hours.
No, I like what it's one of those things where like I refuse to wake up super early usually, but like if I know I have to get up, I can,
Oh yeah.
be on, because my reward after this is a fat nap. So I'm like real excited to go home.
What?
A
A
nap.
nap. Oh my God.
Also, it's raining today in LA. So
What's that like?
well, it's perfect aesthetic for me to go home and take a fat nap.
Oh, actually perfect nap weather. Yes.
I'm gonna get a little cozy, maybe like open like the side door and like just like listen to the rain trickle while I fall asleep. Oh, it's gonna be so fun.
That's very calming. Well, I hope
is.
you enjoy.
Little weighted blanket.
I'm going to let you actually go enjoy that nap instead of making you talk anymore.
No. I'll have you send me pictures of your cat and all that. Well,
I'll probably keep harassing you
we'll
anyway.
still be talking.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. You can probably see pictures of the cat or whatever on Instagram if you want.
Mooney and Junie. It's going to be so...
Mooney
you really
and Junie.
have created something for yourself there.
I don't even know how that happened.
It's like literally they look like the exact opposites of each other and they rhyme. So they're like the perfect evil twins.
My sister calls them Juneshine and Mooniper, which makes me laugh.
Okay,
Anyway.
that's comedy gold. Wait a minute. Wait a minute. Okay.
All right. Thanks, everybody. And
That's
why
we
drink.
Yay!
Yay. All right.